Happy Friday and welcome into the SCC Qualifiers. It's the group stages, which means that we just about have found out which teams are be making it through to the Smite Challenger circuit. My name is Finch. I'm joined here on the desk by Ryan Agro-Bailey. And Ryan, before we get too deep involved in this, because today is very serious and I want to take today seriously, so I want to make sure that I take care of some clerical work before we get to that. Now, I'm on a show here in the studio at the studio called Game Night, along with Dave Olsen. You all have probably seen on some Smite and Paladin broadcasts by now. And the way that game works, we play some games with the devs and play some board games with them, some of the people that make your very favorite game. But when one of us loses, there is a punishment. And if we could go ahead and take a quick look at Dave, I think we'll get a chance to look at that punishment. Yeah, let's get zoomed in there, can we please, at the Kukulkan face tattoo. And Dave, does there happen to be anything on the other side there, bud?
This is the most painful one, right?
This is the one. There it is. Finch rules. So yeah, I happen.
And you can't tattoo a lie on yourself.
That's right. So that must be true. That must be a fact.
So it has to be real.
Right. I tried to get her to do Funch rules, but no, none of that. So that's me for the day.
Yeah, thank you, Dolson. Appreciate you. That was Anna that did that for us. Dave's being a great sport about it as well. So if you want to check that out, we are on the official Smite YouTube channel as well. Go ahead. Yeah.
You are both morons for agreeing to that. You just lucked out and won. Because otherwise, it would have been you who got your face tattooed.
That's exactly right.
Your previous punishments, the bucket of ice water dumped all over you, the pie in the face.
That happened to me.
All those are fine because it's temporary. This lives on forever.
Yeah, that's all day long, so you get to enjoy that from Dave Olsen all day long. So let's go ahead and get ready to start here with the SCC, the actual group stages that are happening today. This is the ones who made it through to the group stages. You'll see that it is Group A and Group B, but we are going to be sticking just within one group here today. And actually, throughout the rest of the weekend, we're mostly only going to be doing the Group B matches. That's because for the most part, the Group A matches just weren't particularly competitive. It was actually kind of a one-sided affair, I would say. So we'll stay in Group B. That one was much more kind of up in the air that who is making it and more competitive matches, so that's what we'll be showing.
Yeah, we'll be giving you the results and everything like that of Group A later on today.
Definitely update you.
But here's a shocker. Sino's team did really well and Baskin's team did really well. And if you wanted to see those two teams punch worse teams in the face for like 20 minutes each, you can see those later on. We're going to let you know when you can see those games later on in the weekend. These are much more competitive Smite games, ones that have a little bit more weight to them, it feels like. And I think that fans are going to really like seeing these more competitive Group B games.
Yeah, I think that those games will be happening tomorrow right after broadcast for North America, and then the day after that, those additional games will be broadcast if you want to watch those for Europe as well. It'll be our amateur scene that'll be taking care of those. Some talented folks down in that group too, so you're going to want to make sure that you check that out. But this first set that we're going to be looking at, this is Houdini's up against Bloogy and the Woogys, and I actually think that this should be a pretty good set that we're taking a look at here. Houdini's did end up having a pretty good game when they were playing earlier, a pretty good run throughout their bracket. They did end up 2-0ing Dan's Land, but I think they eventually moved on to lose to Anxiety on set. Totally understandable loss there. That's a strong team. Whereas Bloogy and the Woogys lost back in quarters in week 1. They did qualify, but they ended up losing to that team that went on to win. I think it was Locked and Goated. So these two teams have both done well, but maybe not been the absolute top team when they qualified.
No, I think that both of these teams have potential to really make it into the SCC and do good work there, but I have to give the edge to Bloogy and the Woogys.
Yeah, agreed.
Just based on the roster. I mean, you've got names like molluskk, Crimson, Halfghost, Gamma. Those guys have been around for a little bit. Blugin is stepping into play support with Sybil being competitively ruled upon, so Blugin's going to have to play support, which I know is not his normal role. He's usually a mid laner.
Yeah.
So how well he can perform in that role is going to be a big deal, especially up against Houdini's, where Bayroneri in the mid lane is a guy that played in the Smite Minor League towards the end of last year. I'm looking at him to be the real leader for that Houdini squad.
And they're going to need some leadership because there's a really good chance that Bloogy and the Woogys are going to drag you down into the weeds, man. They love aggressive, run-it-down type matches. I mean, to be fair, Moz played that way during his brief time in the SPL. Every time we saw him in the SML too, he loves to try and be aggressive. Look to him to try and pick something in the jungle that can get off the ground early and potentially snowball this game out of control. Not just him, this whole team. I mean, Crimson wasn't necessarily run it down. He was part of that hype unit squad, but he certainly has that potential. He looked like a really high-caliber player on that team as well, so I expect them to be a pretty strong team.
And even the rest of these guys, I mean, Gamma's been around this scene for a long time. Halfghost has floated around the Smite Console League and the Smite Minor League for a while. These guys have really good competitive experience at this level, so I'd expect them to make it into the Smite Challenger circuit out of Group B.
That's a great point. I mean, these could sometimes be longer days. It really just kind of depends on how the matches happen. That's why we didn't get to show as many Group A matches. If all the ones that happen initially are 3-0s, we don't have to watch them play each other. They've already qualified, right? So depending on how these matches go, it could be a really, really long day for these guys, and I think that experience really could end up coming to bear for Bloogy and the Woogys. They have a little bit more of that over the Houdini. So let's get into the picks and bans for game number 1. Houdini's in that first pick slot. And Ryan, has anything kind of stood out to you throughout these early weeks in terms of these picks and bans? Anything not getting valued or maybe getting a little bit overvalued?
Yeah, I think that Thor has been a little bit overvalued.
He hasn't done great, has he?
He really has not. His win rate hasn't been great. In win rate's a deceiving stat at times because there are times where your god is performing very well and then you just happen to lose or something like that. That has not really been the case. I think Thor's been a little bit overvalued. I think Camazotz has been really, really highly prioritized and still probably undervalued.
Sure.
Overall, that god is absolutely nuts right now. Merlin also comes to mind as a god that's a little bit overvalued, and Bloogy and the Woogys clearly taking shots at Bayroneri, a couple gods off the table in the mid lane.
Yeah, 3 mid-mages, certainly the top tier ones have all been removed. I think we've seen people drop down to like Hera, Discordia sometimes when those gods are missing, but you're going to go a little bit further into that mid lane god pool at this point with those 3 taken off the table. But some of those assassins you mentioned are still there. Thor could certainly be grabbed if you do want to value him first overall. Xing has been highly valued in the support role too, so he's taken first.
But win rate also not particularly impressive, only 25%. I think that Xing is one of those gods, though, that the win rate's a little bit deceptive right now. This is a god that's very, very strong and should really be picked as often as you can.
Shiaaaaa getting picked. I'm a bit surprised only because we don't see a ton of Shiaaaaa right now, but I said this the last time I saw him. If crit is good, Shiaaaaa is good, man. He just gets a bunch of free power in the kit, so obviously that works super well with that crit. I don't mind him taken right off the board, and I still think his ultimate's a great team fighting tool.
It's still nuts. I mean, it's still absolutely nuts. I believe this is also played on the patch where he just got a really big buff to branching bolas and the amount of damage that they do on the branching part of the branching bola. And as soon as that buff goes through, I do think that he's a top tier ADC again. It's just crit being good. He gets a lot of free power. Ultimate, as you highlighted, and he's fairly safe. You get to stand in the very back of your wave and just auto it down. It's not the fastest clear, but you don't put yourself too out of position to do it.
I know that this is the first set, but this is the second time today I've gotten to see Kukulkan because, again, it's tattooed on Dave Olsen's face. So that's fantastic that that's been locked in alongside the Terra. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. Who is a really strong pick here right now. So that front line established now for Bloogy and the Woogys, plus that Shiaaaaa backline to go along with it. Both teams kind of waiting a bit on their junglers, and you can see a couple of them starting to get a band away now. The Thor and the Robin taking.
I'm immediately looking for gods. Batz is certainly one, but Dodgy, I think, has a real place in this meta right now. Usually a pretty decent pick against Terra because you get no CC immunity in the kit. That's a pretty easy pull target for the Dodgy. Shiaaaaa can give you trouble, but you can always auto-cancel, like right away, cancel your Powwow so that he doesn't have time to get that Rising Jaguar CC immunity.
Get to that second half where he can make it right on out of there, easy peasy. Thoth gets picked up, so now this adds plenty of long-range damage, and actually there's tons of setup. Thoth, one of the gods I don't think always needs it, by the way. He gets plenty of damage off even without it, but between the Powwow, the Dazzling Offensive, the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, people are going to be thrown back into Thoth damage all game.
Very easily. I like Houdini's comp, but I love this Discordia pickup for Bloogy and the Woogys because, as you highlighted, this is a team that wants to play very aggressively early on in the game. Discordia passive is excellent at doing exactly that.
You're right. Once that person gets a little bit of extra power online, if they're leading in player damage, they'll have that additional power coming from that Discordia passive. I think that's kind of sneakily a reason why a lot of people pick this god right away.
I think it's the reason to pick that god. That's the only reason.
That passive is strong. Let's go ahead and move into game number 1 with Dolson and Mifflin.
Thank you, Finch, as we move into game number 1. Kukulkan on my face. Kukulkan in game here as well, and Mifflin alongside of me. And I kind of want to pivot right from one of the conversations they were having there during picks and bans. You know, Discordia is a god who has about a 7% pick rate, as we saw on the screen, but she's hanging around right about that 100% win rate. Do you maybe put her in that undervalued category? I mean, 7% is, you know, maybe 1 or 2 games throughout all of the qualifying, but she's done good work.
Yeah, I think Aggro said it best on the desk that sometimes win rates are a little bit deceiving. I don't think that Discordia is all that powerful. The passive is really the main reason to pick her up. But if you look at the comp that Houdini's has drafted here, Discordia passive is most likely going to land on Kukulkan going into that Amaterasu.
Sure.
It's not going to give it that much kill potential, barring a gank from Hunbot, since we see some action on the blue buff.
Yeah, and they're moving into the blue buff. Lots of hogs as well picked up early into this game. Shia maybe thought that there was a potential for a steal away there, but able to secure it is Gamma, so nothing lost there. And we are starting to see that a little bit more, aren't we? A lot of these early, like, you know, normally we've seen maybe like Jungler, Guardian picking up the hog, but this game we saw a little bit of everyone. 3 hogs I think I saw on both sides of the early game.
Hog kind of gives up the early game in that you can't move in aggressive because you won't have those potion slots available.
Sure.
But as the meta develops, people are starting to realize that ganks are still insane. Invading the jungle is still insane. So you kind of want to just confirm that you get your buffs without too much fuss. And Hog's the pickup to get you that. However, personally, if you can get away with not having Hog, it's best not to.
They are going to rotate around. I mean, you talk about kind of the meta adapting and things changing around. Apparently in this set already, we've seen a complete abandon of any sort of duo lane where kind of early on in these qualifying splits, you know, maybe the Guardian hangs around till level 5, then moves to mid, starts to rotate around with the jungler. But this is a totally different vibe in that we've just seen the Hunters left alone to farm.
Yeah, this has happened a couple times throughout the years where the 1-3-1 meta has really developed. However, I think this is mainly just a reaction to that invade on the right side that we saw. We wanted to make sure they knew it was going to come, so they got the Hog, and they moved in towards it. I would imagine we see the supports move back towards the duo lane relatively shortly. Sitting in mid, you don't want to soak up too much of your mid laner's farm, but right now, Xing Blugin kind of has to stick around because Crimson's getting forced out. Yeah,
is that surprising at all? I mean, it's so low health already on that Toth. Bayroneri has not had really any poke returned onto him so far in this lane. Is that maybe some of the decision-making that goes into that? Is Crimson going to have a bit of a tougher time? Maybe that leads Blugin to hang around just a little bit of extra?
If I'm Blugin, yeah, I'll hang around just a little bit. But now that he's backed, he kind of needs to get out of there already because he's going to miss the XP that he lost once he returned to base. And now that he's healthy, can't really do too much there. You'd expect the matchup between Thoth and Discordia to go Thoth's way in terms of poke. He's got some of the longest range, lowest cooldown abilities in the game that deal high damage in the early, whereas Discordia kind of has to really get in a little bit closer for her poke.
Well, he also kind of rotated into a bit of a different start where Bayroneri moved right into that tier 2 artifact, and Crimson on the other side, he goes into boots and then the tier 1 artifact. Why maybe a bit of a difference in the decision making there?
Boots rush generally means you're going to be looking to deal your damage in the early game, which is what we expected to see there. It just didn't quite go that way for Crimson. The restored artifact rush, it's nice. She's likely going to finish the Shoes of Focus into a Chronos Pendant. Discordia is very cooldown reliant. Her jump is kind of huge for her survivability. A little bit of trouble though. molluskk might look to dive.
Yeah, and he did. He waited a little bit longer to use that dash in, but he does find the damage and first blood in this one. Bayroneri is able to turn it around for second blood in this case, but it is first blood. That goes over to Bloogy and the Woogys as molluskk gets aggressive beneath that tier 1 tower.
First blood is a huge deal there. It gets him a little bit of a gold lead over SpreeeN on Hunbots. However, the XP lead is going to go towards Hunbots. He's going to be able to back. It's not really going to get him a huge power spike. They should both finish boots around the same time. So I would have liked to see a little bit more disciplined play from molluskk. But as they said on the desk, the guy likes to play aggressive.
Yeah, and I imagine we see that continue here from Bloogy and the Woogys. And he does finish off those boots in totally different mindsets as well on the boot purchases there in the jungle.
Yeah, power boots on Hunbots. He wants to kill people when he ults. Teleria boots, it shows me molluskk is going to be moving around the map a lot quicker, trying to set up with his ultimate. He's not really looking to be the playmaker himself outside of getting that initial huge burst of CC. It's not exactly how I like to see Daji played, but molluskk is a Daji specialist. He always has been. I've played against this guy for a long time. He likes this god, and he's always been building Teleria.
There could be a fight brewing by this blue buff. There have been tones of this the entire game. Fear No Evil drops down. That sets up some good CC. Gamma falls to Heeed. So Houdinis find themselves the second kill in this game, and they have not let this blue buff go freely to Bloogy this entire time.
And they shouldn't. If they have the timer on it, they need to move in constantly. I've always said the first buff stolen does not amount to a lead. It's what you do with the next one. If you get that spawn timer, it's on you and your squad to make sure that that becomes a lead throughout the course of the match.
That's a beautiful collapse there. Ultimate's expended, but a kill on the board. And that's going to kind of pull some of the XP. I mean, we saw early XP leads for SpreeeN, but now if you look kind of at the bottom of the screen there, effectively everyone has at least a half level to a 1 level lead there on the Houdinis. As close as the gold may be, about 800 right now, they've got the levels, and that's so important here in the early game.
It absolutely is. However, Bloogie and the Woogys has a very good comp for picking up just random people straggling around the jungle, so I'm not too worried about them going forward. Houdini's, however, has the superior team fight, at least in this early game stage, so if they can look towards any sort of objective in the early, around level 10 maybe, they could force the fight. Maybe not necessarily take the Gold Fury or even the Pyromancer, but if they can just drag Bloogie and the Woogys into the jungle for a brawl, Houdini's are going to look to come out ahead.
You can see the jungler starting to hover around this Gold Fury, and molluskk maybe just looking for a cheeky little gank. And when the long lanes are kind of left this way, where they're just going to leave the hunters to free farm, is there really ever all that much gank potential? I mean, both hunters probably play safely, right?
I mean, they're always going to meet towards the center of the lane. Right here is about where they're always going to have to go to get their farm. But if you look at it, I mean, Jing, one of the hardest gods in the game to gank, just her ultimate with a CC immunity, the large dash away, as well as even if you do kill her, she's going to do just this. Halfghost floating on back in a lane, just going to chill out. However, Xfall on the other end, a lot easier to gank once his dash is down. He's got just about no survivability tools, but CC immunity on the dash means that it's going to be a little bit harder for Dodgy to get the ultimate pull. Yeah,
a little bit shorter range on the dash there. molluskk is close by here, could be thinking about something while 3 men collapse in the mid lane. I think they do spot him out, so there is a ward. If nothing else, maybe sneak away this purple buff. And, you know, sometimes, Myth, that can kind of turn the tides in these long lanes that are just kind of stalemate farm fest, trying to get both hunters online. A purple buff lost here and there can make a difference.
And a purple buff loss when you're already a level down, that's going to hurt a lot from Nesfor. But he shouldn't be too worried. In terms of raw trade potential, Xfall can go a little bit in the deficit because he just has a little bit more damage in his kit than Jingwei. Outside of the knockup from Jingwei, she really doesn't have much to trade with, whereas Xfall, poison darts, the self-stim, as well as a damaging dash, he's going to be looking all right, regardless.
If nothing else, that's a good ward from Nesfor to at least know that molluskk had been spending a lot of his time towards that long lane. We've kind of fallen into a bit of a quiet spell here after a flurry of only 3 kills in the last few, or the early few minutes of this game. Gold lead is kind of stabilized around 1,000 here for the Houdinis. In Toth, actually, Crimson has pulled back that XP differential, still 1,000 in favor of the Houdinis, but he holds himself 1 level ahead of Bayroneri on that Discordia.
You know, after the qualifying stages, we've earned this quiet spell.
I guess that's true, right? Not a 70-kill game on the books for us?
Not yet. It's a slow start, but 70 kills still might happen. Oracle's going to go the way of the Houdinis there. I mean, I imagine the Houdinis are going to just continue to grow this gold lead quietly as long as they can, and then move in towards that team fight. They have to have identified that that's what they drafted for. If they can get a team fight rolling before Gamma can rotate in and really put the kibosh onto Bayroneri on the Discordia, they should be very pretty for the mid game. If they can get even just a Pyromancer to set themselves up, that's going to be very hard for Bloogie and the Woogys to climb back up that mountain.
Well, I think this is smart from Shiaaaaa, realizing that the blue buffs have been contested the entire time. That one does fall. Heeed is just going to try to zone that out. It looks like Gamma was able to secure it as Heeed moved in. So at least a small bit of victory there in the short lane as Gamma still nursing that 1-level deficit. Potential fighting here. molluskk looking to now contest the purple buff on the opposite side of the map. Neither team, I mean, in these short, you know, very close-knit games, neither team wanting to let even something as small as the buffs go, but molluskk drops into the ultimate, up to the sky he goes. Bayroneri tosses out the apple, does not connect on anyone. Down goes molluskk, but right into the Fear No Evil. Has to burn the relic. Dashes his way over to the Gold Fury. Whirlwind of Rage and Steel used maybe for a bit of disengage by Blugin, but he's stunned up now. Nesfor maybe has a free target here, but some good dashes from Blugin get him out safely. And it looks like this one's going to fizzle with no kills on the board.
Crimson did such a good job there. That fight was nearly lost for Bloogie and the Woogys. If molluskk got to walk out just uncontested there, the Houdinis were on the back foot, or on the front foot, I should say. They forced out molluskk, and no one got pulled by the ultimate. But Crimson slammed Bayroneri with his ultimate and just stopped any form of aggression that they could have moved forward with at all. Bayroneri dropped about 10% health, has to back up, and you know, Houdini's not really keen to fight without their mid laner.
Yeah, you know, sometimes good chunks of damage, even if it's not going to find you a kill, is good for disengaging and maybe saving one of your teammates. And as quiet as this solo lane has been, they've both kind of rotated around and started proxying some of these waves. Surprised at all that there really hasn't been, you know, a focus in this short lane? I mean, they've just been left to farm kind of the same as the Hunters.
I mean, I can never blame anyone for not wanting to go over to Soul Lane.
Right,
it
I
opens
guess.
up the map. You can get gold free off it if too many people rotate over there.
That's
the
true.
age-old solo call, 4 in my lane, do gold. You'll see it in every ranked game, as well as ganking the tanky target is almost never easy, especially targets like Amma and Kukulkan. Kukulkan having the CC immunity on his ultimate, as well as a very short jump. Amma's got the dash, the speed stun, and the CC immune ultimate again. So moving over there, not quite as easy. I would imagine we see a little bit more focus around this long lane. Fighting around that purple buff makes sense to me, but I want to see the fight move a little bit more towards the lane and out of the jungle.
Well, you bring up Gold Fury, and it has been started here from the Houdinis, Bloogy and the Woogys. They are privy that something may be going on, but that thing absolutely melts Houdinis. They're able to snag that one. And in a game where not much else is happening on the map, this 2K gold lead could be big with Heeed maybe taking the wrong route out. He is going to transform here shortly, tossed backwards. That's a good Fear No Evil to lock up a couple. molluskk takes to the skies and is looking to chain in a few. Doesn't end up connecting. Discordia connects onto Crimson. Not sure that one will do much more than make him think twice about moving in. So it's Gold Fury and nothing else for the Houdinis, but maybe a tier 1 in the short lane getting traded out.
Yeah, Bloogy the Woogys, they're going to look to take this tower. They'll pick it up pretty easily. She's in no danger of dying. Gamma knows that the ultimates are down. That's been communicated, so there was really no threat there. That's how I expect to see mid lane to go, by the way. Bayroneri moved up even an inch, got slammed twice by Thos1, and now she's half health and has to be a little bit wary.
Yeah, I suppose what we saw in the early game was a bit out of sorts for what we would expect, where Crimson, really it was just that one lane before you had to go back where he essentially had no health, but more recently than not, he has been very impactful in some of these fights. But aggro loves Discordia. I think she brings a lot of potential to the table, and despite kind of, you know, a half-level deficit, call it 1 level now, I still think she has a huge impact on a lot of these fights.
Well, she absolutely does. As Bloogy and the Woogys look to pick up Pyromancer, Discordia brings a lot more confirmed team fight damage than Thoth can. Dropping the golden apple in the middle of the jungle is going to hit somebody eventually, and if it hits somebody in the jungle, it's going to hit another buddy, you know? However, you know, the passive's going to do a lot more damage. If it lands onto the jungler on Hunbots, if they land any sort of CC, Hunbots is going to be able to use his passive even more effectively. Stacked with that passive from Discordia, that additional damage is going to pop off. However, I'm just not a huge fan. Aggro can like Discordia, not me.
This is brave. We're going to start a God War here up against aggro, and it's always a tough spot. 2 opinionated individuals. Maybe we'll get you guys on the desk together, and we can get a little pick ban chatter going back and forth. But thanks to that Pyromancer, Bloogy and the Woogys are able to pull this gold differential from about 2K down to, it's looking like 500 or so here. So in a game that has now gone back and forth, 3 kills, and so many of these fights have started to build up, and it looks like Houdinis are going to be able to push that 2,000 gold differential, and then the fights are disengaged so well by Bloogy and the Woogys. It just seems like this push and pull where the aggressive start is there, but then the team fights aren't fully committed on almost.
So what I saw is that Bloogy and the Woogys looked for that aggressive start that is so trademarked for their play style, and it didn't go exactly how they wanted to, and now that they're not exactly as ahead as they wanted to be, they're a little more hesitant.
Yeah, just to the side. If that one would have connected, Bayroneri might have fallen. Some disengage from SpreeeN in the backline is going to clean up molluskk here, who's looking for just a little bit too much. Crimson is going to dash his way out of that one back to safety, so there is a kill on the board here for the Houdinis. Could be one added to that one. Heeed moves himself in. That's the blink used by him. Blugin looking to dash back outwards, but Heeed roars Blugin right back to base. Finally some action here for the Houdinis, and they pick up 2 more.
Yeah, 2 for 0. That's a good look. I mean, Bloogy and the Woogys, power to them. They try to move in a little bit aggressively, but you can't just be going under the tier 1 tower when there's 0 deficit. It's a complete team fight. Everyone was there. They knew that they were all there. You got to respect that. Towers in Smite, traditionally weaker than most towers in other MOBAs, but there's still a huge damage output, especially at this phase of the game.
Well, the other solo lane tower is very low here, the one for Bloogy and the Woogys that is left standing. Only 1 tower has been taken down, and that was Gamma earlier on with a bit of a free rotation right on through. You know, and we've seen like a touch of rotation from some of these hunters, Myth, but at what point do you maybe expect them to start having a bigger impact on some of these team skirmishes?
I'm glad you asked me that. I really am. Hunters are the goofballs of Smite in that they will not leave that lane until they're level 20. They don't think about the state of the map. They literally sit in the long lane. They see the wave coming to me, and they're like, oh, that's free farm. And they'll do it until it's not farm anymore. And I expect to see that this game. You know, mechanically talented, absolutely, but they're not thinking about the match, not at all.
Well, Halfghost has made his way to level 16, so maybe Bloogy and the Woogys can expect that hunter support in another 4 levels or so, and Nesfor moves his way to about level 15 here as well. Transcendence into Aussie for Nesfor, and that's been kind of a popular hunter build that we've started to see come around. I mean, Aussie sometimes is the full-blown start, but Aussie as an item overall, I think we've started to see a lot more on that hunter role.
Yeah, this is the first time we've seen it in NA, really.
Sure.
EU seems to favor that item a lot more than NA does. I'm a huge proponent of Aussie myself. That passive makes it nearly impossible to trade into. Once you're low health, you get 30% additional lifesteal. That's nuts. People don't respect that passive enough in a trade.
I'll take that.
Yeah, it's pretty good. You can be lifestealing for about 80 in auto right now if that ticks up for him. However, I want to point out that molluskk went 3rd item Transcendence.
Sure.
That's a little bit weird to me, especially now that you have to stack up the Transcendence to get the cooldown passive. That's kind of like you want to get it a little bit earlier in my mind, right? As the
Might be able to buy
erupts.
yourself some stacks with an engagement here if he's able to find something. Shiaaaaa locked down. Discordia tosses the apple into the back line. Whirlwind of Rage and Steel tosses Shiaaaaa backwards, but that's
nice
a great
spots.
Fear No Evil. That sends a couple running. Gamma might be able to make it out, but SpreeeN is there with waiting arms, and that's a double kill for the Hoon. Batz drops down for 3. Suddenly everything is crumbling here for Bloogy and the Woogys. molluskk is going to dash to the Harpies, but that's about all he's got. Bayroneri puts himself on the board for the 2nd time in a disastrous fight for Bloogy and the Woogys, one that they were trying to pick.
Yeah, 4 for 0 into the Gold Fury, and Bloogy and the Woogys has picked every fight this game. At no point has Houdini been the true aggressor in this game. They just wait for Bloogy and the Woogys to walk up. They take the fight in stride, usually come out ahead, only falling once this game. Shouts to my boy Bayroneri dying for the one time. But Bloogy and the Woogys need to either A, stop picking fights because they're not winning them, or B, pick better fights. They need to make any sort of adjustment, especially with the Gold Fury spawning there. You don't want to move in towards the enemy side of the jungle. As I always say, it's easier to be the defender than it is the aggressor. All Bloogy and the Woogys did there is move the goalpost up past the Gold Fury towards the red buff instead. And Houdini's, the defenders, came out ahead.
And they get the Fury, and now over to that Pyromancer, so where, 12 or so minutes throughout this game, we saw a very even gold differential. Now, a couple dropped objectives have moved that one to 4.7K, 6 and some change thousand on the XP. Houdini's so very much in control of this game. And they just, is it kind of compositionally for them? They've just been so good about absorbing this pressure and then turning around the fights. I think SpreeeN has had some great Hoonbats ults that have turned around some of these fights as well.
Yeah, in just their comp, Terra and Hunbots are fantastic counter-initiation tools. She's going to take a little bit of poke here. I don't imagine we see any more threat going towards her, but if Bloogy and the Woogys look to aggress onto the enemies, SpreeeN can drop his Hunbots ult as a peel. Terra can drop her ult as well, and it's going to directly counter Blugin's in that the second the Whirlwind of Steel comes out, the Terra heal is going to go up for them through her ultimate. It's Bloogy and the Woogys need to find the aggression onto Discordia. They need to find it onto Nesfor, but instead they're always taking fights around that core of Terra and Hunbots. They need to avoid that almost completely at this point in the game, especially with the deficit that they're currently at.
Well, it's good we talk about SpreeeN because kind of on the back of that XP differential conversation, the majority of it is in that jungle. molluskk 4 levels behind. Shiaaaaa 2 levels up, maybe making up for a little bit of that. ErupTCrimson actually is 1 level ahead as well, but so much of a differential now in this jungle. I think Houdini's, you just play around SpreeeN and you win these fights.
Absolutely. And they could also look to force objectives inside the jungle. They don't necessarily need to go for the objective itself. I said it earlier, if they force any sort of fight, they're favored in it. It looks like they're going to just go ahead and push down this long lane tower. They've got so many people into the jungle that they know they can sit here safely. SpreeeN's got any rotation path cut off, just sitting with his boy Bayroneri. Red buff spawning.
They're going to try to engage over it. Kind of meme the hunters, but Nesfor has 5 assists over the 8 kills. Fear No Evil's going to use or by a little bit of an engagement here. Crimson has to burn the beads, but Heed's right on top of him. molluskk is gonna turn around and try to help his teammate out, but he might have just bought a double kill for Heed. He's gonna have to retreat over the top. Goes SpreeeN. He does end up finding that double kill, but it's on to Halfghost instead. The kill differential moves to 10. That's a tier 2 long lane tower down, and this left side Phoenix is looking nervous.
Yeah, the minions waves rolling in, girdle pop. They're going to be looking pretty all right here. Frenzy, I should say. That fight might go a little bit better had molluskk predicted the Hunbot's blink ult coming in and just used his ultimate. Instead, pops his beads, then ults. That's 2 forms of CC immunity gone in the fight. He just has to sit there then at any point. Got CC'd a little bit later on, lost his life for it. Now I imagine Houdini's just going to back up, spend all that gold they just got, a tier 1, a tier 2, and a Phoenix. That's so much gold, likely an item on just about every god. And they can move in towards the Fire Giant and just continue pushing this lead.
That is sort of the main objective that we start to see around this point in the game, when you have yourself an 8,000 gold lead and almost everyone ahead in XP, and that's at 12K now. Almost exactly 8,500 in the gold. You just start to move forward, ward out deep around that Fire Giant, and you're almost hoping that Bloogy and the Woogys move themselves forward and try to check it, because there are times where you can just win the game when somebody's trying to face check that Fire Giant.
Yeah, if the Houdinis see Bloogy and the Woogys move up even a little bit, I have to imagine that they all just smirk at their desks, move forward, and attack. If Bloogy and the Woogys falls at this point, especially if they have been 4 for 0, 5 for 0, again, I've said it before, but only 1 kill on the side of Bloogy and the Woogys falling onto the mid laner, Bayroneri.
Yep.
If that continues to be the case, we might see a roster switch up.
Well, the face check doesn't happen around the Fire Giant. It went down much too quickly, and I'm not sure Bloogy and the Woogys would have wanted to try to counter that one out anyway. They're going to maybe try their hand at the Phoenix defense here, as Heeed is going to start to run down this long lane. But I love the rotation from the Houdinis here. They realize that their solo laner is demanding so much attention, and they might look for a fight. SpreeeN jumps up, but he drops right back down into the waiting arms of Gamma. Heeed sends a couple running, but he's against 5 strong on Bloogy and the Woogys. He's able to turn around to kill before he falls to Halfghost. But look at this short lane. It has been pushed all the way through. Tier 1, Tier 2 down. You might even be able to get a Phoenix.
It's burning fast. The entirety of Bloogy and the Woogys are there to defend. Discordia ult lands.
They might be trying to just to finish off the Phoenix, but instead they're going to turn tail. 3 members left alive. Whirlwind of Rage and Steel connects onto 2, but beads burned on 1 to keep him alive. Halfghost is able to turn around some damage for a kill, but Nesfor does the same. Blugin, he's going to try to jump in. Nesfor, there's too much damage there to out DPS. Shiaaaaa, he's going to get himself out alive. Unless Crimson has the dash, he will have a little bit of mobility here in a few seconds, but she is very tanky. I imagine he makes his way beneath this tier 2.
Not only tanky, but so highly mobile. Just going to move out, double dash, going to get out of there. Bloogy and the Woogys, they can look to take a tier 1 tower maybe, but tier 2 tower is a little bit too much. I imagine we see a tier 1 in mid, go to the Gold Fury afterward, but with Halfghost dead, it's going to be so hard to get these objectives for free. But with the passive from Jing, we're going to be able to fly in, get to that Gold Fury relatively quickly. Electing not to go for the tier 1 tower. Kukulkan was there a little bit too early for their liking, but that Gold Fury should be theirs.
It's down to about half. Shiaaaaa and Heeed know this is going on, but I don't think they're going to make it there in time. Bloogy and the Woogys going to finish off that objective, and the aggression continues here from Bloogy. Heeed is going to turn around some damage as Gamma is just going to continue poking out a little bit of damage, and this one is disengaged. For a moment there, it looked like Bloogies were going to look for the full-blown fight, but they're going to take the Gold Fury just as a bit of a win and head back to base.
It looked like they wanted the fight. They realized very late that it was the Kukulkan, Heeed. Hit him once, saw that his health didn't move even a little bit, and thought better of it and backed up. Now Houdini's going to pick up the Pyromancer for free.
Well, just a moment ago, it was what, Heeed against all 5 members of Bloogy and the Woogys, and he was able to get a kill.
And drop 1 to half, take away Halfghost speed,
right.
Set him up poorly for the next fight. Halfghost dies because of it. Yeah, I wouldn't mess with Heeed. He's a big dude.
And it was a moment ago, but you now look at that last push. You got the right side tier 1 and tier 2, right side Phoenix down very low. You get 2 kills, but you lose 4 members. I'm not sure Bloogy is happy about that one, depending on how this tier 2 fight goes for them. Fear no evil into the backline. Bayroneri moves in and is able to clean up that kill. Heeed in the backline. molluskk, you stand no chance there, bud. 3 members of Bloogy back beneath this tier 2 tower. And a raging Kukulkan has found his way into the backline. Halfghost turns around the kill. on to Nesfor, so Hunter down, but there's going to be enough CC, minus the beads from Halfghost as Bayroneri finishes off that kill. 2 men standing, both at half, and Houdini's 4 men strong. They might look towards this left side Phoenix.
You know, that fight went really well for the Houdinis, and I hate to do it, but my eyes were on SpreeeN that entire time. He threw 3 Sacred Monkeys and found none. It dropped their health so much lower. Shiaaaaa would have come into this fight completely full health. I imagine had he found his skill shots a little bit more easily, they could have moved in towards the Titan here. Instead, they're going to have to back up and play the game a little bit slower.
Well, Fire Giant is going to expire on the only member who still has it, which is Shiaaaaa here in the next 10 or so seconds. What do you want to see now from the Houdinis? I mean, outside of these big fights underneath the Tier 2 towers, at this point, there's no other objectives. Save Fire Giant in a minute, except for these Phoenixes left standing, and that looks like where Bloogy and the Woogys are going to try to fight. Do you just hope that you grab yourself a Fire Giant and then maybe roll the dice on a Phoenix fight?
Well, secretly, I'm hoping that Bloogy and the Woogys try and defend this Fire Giant, but barring that, Houdini should be able to get this Fire Giant uncontested, unless Bloogy and the Woogys do make the mistake of moving up there. However, after they get the Fire Giant, they can move in towards the short lane. I always like pushing through the side lanes before I push down the middle Phoenix. If you go through middle lane, they can attack you from both sides, a war on all fronts if you would, but if you go through the side, you don't have to worry about one jungle path coming in behind you. It's a little bit easier to get those Phoenixes. After that, I imagine the fight would have gone one way or the other. Probably just going towards the Titan, or Bloogy and the Woogys would have won the fight, and they just have to go for a Tier 1 tower, maybe pick up the gold free if it spawns around that time, and just back up and continue their defense.
Well, you want Bloogy and the Woogys to check the FG. I'm not sure they're going to. They do have a couple of wards, but those are just by the blue buff, and they're so scared of Heeed, I'm not sure they're going to try to move themselves through him, as Fire Giant is started up here from the Houdinis. They do have wards deep enough on their own side that they're going to be able to sniff out anyone from Bloogy and the Woogys attempting to move in on that one. This one's going uncontested. Houdini's grabbed the FG, and they're maybe looking towards this right lane.
Bloogy showed their hand a little bit too early in that they sent molluskk over to the long lane to push out the waves. It's a smart play trying to get those fire minions away from the base so you don't have to worry about it as you defend the other Phoenixes. But with Fire Giant spawning as it was, they could have waited just a moment to send molluskk in to clear that wave, so they think, or Houdinis think rather, that there might be a defense coming and make them play a little bit slower, a little bit sloppier. Instead, you know, just push out the wave, go back for the defense, and that's exactly what I expect to see. Looks like Houdini's going to wait for their wave to show up. They're even splitting the push in mid. I love this. Huge fan of that. The 4-1 split for the invade, or the siege rather, so good, as well as the fact that SpreeeN on Hunbots, just about nobody on the side of Bloogy Woogys can safely solo them.
You're going to have to make them decide which Phoenix they want to defend. Nesfor drops down the darkness, but doesn't find much. molluskk up into the air. Fear No Evil still waiting from SpreeeN to maybe engage or disengage. molluskk drops down, doesn't find much. No stun there from Shiaaaaa. Spinning around goes Blugin. For the rest of his team has left him here. Good ult there from SpreeeN is going to send a couple running from Bloogy and the Woogys. Low health bars, but no kills. Both sides trying to disengage this fight. Lots of flash, but no fire.
I mean, Crimson's done it a lot this game. His ults aren't necessarily finding kills as you would hope they would, but he always finds multiple targets with it and sends them packing. And that's the most you can really hope for on the side of Bloogy and the Woogys, especially at this deficit. Once he finishes up that last item, that restored artifact, most likely going to turn into a Rada to Hoodie. Those ults might not just be a deterring factor and might be the tool to send people to the grave.
When we look at Heeed and how difficult he is to kill, he just picked up a Pridwen as his final item. Maybe trading out that shield at some point. And Gamma takes a bit of a pivot, and he picks up the Gauntlet of Thebes as his final item. That Pridwen is going to make that Kukulkan even harder to kill.
Absolutely. Gauntlet of Thebes' last item, that's nuts. I imagine he finished that a little bit earlier, but it's already evolved. Heart of the Urchin, 3 stacks already. He's only going to get a little bit stronger, but 6 kills at 29 minutes. I don't imagine they even think that Heart of the Urchin is going to get the full value. You have to get kills or assists for that to stack up, and Bloogy and the Woogys aren't really getting many of those. Yeah,
effectively everyone on Houdini's is at or near full build at this point, full 6 items, minus boots even. So look to see if they trade some of those out. Right side Phoenix is down, Fire Giant still burning, 5 strong for the Houdinis. 30 minutes into this game, left side Phoenix just respawns a moment ago, and they might opt for that 4-1 split yet again.
Eyes on Gamma's build. He just sold an item and picked up the Ick-Avail. It looks like he's sick of his team not dealing enough damage. He's going to get in there and do it himself. molluskk also electing to sell an item, getting the tier 2 Titan's Vein.
Here's the engage, though, on the left side. Phoenix, that one falls, and Heeed is going to try to make his way out. Has the blink, just a couple of seconds if need be. Blugin catches a couple
in trouble.
in the whirlwind of Rage and Steel, but that's a good bit of peel there from SpreeeN. A triple kill from Bayroneri. 2 members left alive from Bloogy and the Woogys. Mifflin, this is looking like game. That's the Titan under attack. Crimson, he's going to try his best, but it's not going to happen. Titan is going to fall, and the Houdinis take game number 1.
Yeah, all right, aggro. I guess Discordia's pretty good, but, you know, it could have been a Hebo. It could have been the same thing. Crushing Wave's cool, but I can't be mad about it. Bayroneri on that Discordia, what a powerful showing.
Yeah, and as slow as that early game started, I think the Houdinis did such a good job of absorbing all of that pressure and turning it around into some good team fights.
I can't look at you, man.
What? What? What?
Yeah, you're right. What'd you say?
I said there was some good absorption of pressure there from the Houdinis in the early game, and they turned it around into some good team fighting in the mid to late game.
Yeah, they sure did. Look the other way when you talk to me.
Yeah, but then I got Finch rocks on the side of my face, which is easily the worst of my 2 tattoos. Finch, take it away.
That's just straight facts, though, man. Finch absolutely does rule. Appreciate you guys knocking out the cast there. I want to remind you all that you can pick up the Dunk Father Odin through that viewer store. If you're making sure that you're watching here in the Twitch chat or in Mixer, make sure your accounts are linked as well so you can get those points and pick up that cool new skin. Finch here, I've still got Aggro with me on the desk as well. And Aggro, let's talk a little bit about this game, man, because it felt to me like Blugin the Woogys never got anything going. That first kill, molluskk throws his life away to go get first blood. He gets it, dies instantly. My man doesn't get another one the rest of the game. It just never worked.
I mean, that was the only kill that Blugin the Woogys got for, what, 20 minutes after that or something like that? A really dominant showing by Houdini's. Heeed in particular on this Kukulkan was an absolute nightmare. Gamma never even came close to matching his impact on a god that you would think normally can match impact very well out of that solo lane, but the game started snowballing into Houdini's control a little bit too early for Gamma's real prowess to really be a factor. Crimson had a great game on this Thoth. He was continually putting out good damage.
Yeah.
It's just really hard whenever there's a Kukulkan on your face. The entire team can't really peel him away either. This botched invade really didn't go their way. I mean, this invade went well, excuse me, for Heeed and Houdini, and it just snowballed from there.
And I really feel like the big problem for Blugin and the Woogys was there was almost no dive potential from this composition that they had. And I think it's because Houdini had a decent draft. There was so much CC immunity available in the kit, right? Discordia can easily get there with the ultimate. Xing can get there with his dash as well. You've got the Terra and the Unbots, which Mifflin perfectly laid out during the game, are great counter initiation tools as well. It really never worked for him. That Gold Fury fight comes to mind too. Yep. That was aggression from Blugin and the Woogys up past Gold Fury, and they just get stuffed. It's a 4-for-0 in favor of Houdini's, and they take the Gold Fury. And
the Discordia against Dodgy is a really tough matchup for Dodgy, because not only does she have the CC immunity, as you said, but also if Dodgy tries a Trickster Spirit to you, you can just stealth and it cancels the ability. So that's one of Dodgy's best ways to get on top of you as a mid-mage, is just 3 on top of you, auto, 1 auto, and you're basically dead before she ever uses the ultimate or the 2. But that combo's out the window against Discordia, so even though it takes a little bit for Discordia's damage to come online, that passive early on really helps. She can stay very safe up against the Dodgy, and then late game, Bayroneri can do things like get that triple kill on the Phoenix.
Yeah, not bad when you get that Discordia all the way, making it into the late game. So if I'm Blugin and the Woogys, man, I think that it's not even so much on their execution. I really think they kind of just ran into a tough composition for what they were trying to do. I just don't know that that dive aggression we talked about was going to work. And it didn't feel like they had much of a fallback plan sort of after that about how that team was going to thrive in the mid to late game, right? Because they were outclassed by Blugin and the Woogys' late game competition pretty significantly.
Exactly, and that's the thing, is that normally you would look at a composition with Dodgy and Thoth and think, okay, and Amaterasu, we're going to outscale them to the late game. We've got Jing as well. Our late game is better, but they never got to an even late game. If that game is even 35 minutes in, Blugin and the Woogys have the far better composition to take team fights. But the fact is that they were so far behind at that point that the fact that their gods were maybe better at level 20 than the enemy didn't matter, because it took too long for them to level 20 and they didn't have the requisite items. So now, I mean, we talked so much during picks and bans. We want to see this team play aggressively. That's kind of their identity. Put molluskk on something that isn't Dodgy. Put Crimson, I mean, the Thoth was great, but maybe it took a little bit too long. I think the big 2 picks that I want to see switched are jungle and solo. Gamma's got to have a bigger impact earlier on in the game. He can't get steamrolled by Heeed. And then you've got to get a better showing from molluskk here.
Let's get to those picks and bans then for game number 2. Some kind of adjustments to come through for Blugin and the Woogys, because Houdini really ran over them in game number 1. Remember, these are all best of 3s throughout the day, so already Blugin and the Woogys' backs are against the wall. And I got to imagine these are the kind of matches that you need to really win if you want to make it out of the group, right? It's not even so much can you find wins against the team that are maybe better than you on paper.
Right.
It's when you're up against those teams that are right at your level that you have to win those really tough matchups. And when you eke those out, that's how you make it through out of these group stages. It's not easy, man. Everyone that's here is good enough to make it, but if you want to make it, you got to win these matches.
Absolutely. You can't be dropping games against teams of your same caliber because you look at what Group A has and, you know, Baskin and Sino's team, those two dominate. You have to be able to take on this level of competition if you want to be able to make it in this My Challenger circuit and beat those teams that are really, really well represented.
Well, Persephone makes it on through, so if you like that Discordia game last time from the Houdinis, don't worry, it might get even worse this time as now the Persephone is available. And I think that they're right to ban this pick out a lot. Persephone can get pressure right away in lane. It can feel hard to commit to kill her because her passive lets her still do damage even when she's dead. I mean, it is difficult to tackle the Persephone.
There isn't a good answer against Persephone. I think that's the big thing,
Yes.
is that she's very, very difficult to play around. That ultimate is just absurd.
It really is.
And what it brings to a team fight. Her damage is inconsistent overall, but when it works, it wins you games very, very easily. And as you mentioned, trying to focus her out and kill her first isn't always the best plan because she can still get her ult off no matter what.
And still get plenty of value. They'll pair that with the Terra and a run back on this Kukulkan after that works so well in the solo lane too. One thing that Blugin and the Woogys are changing though is that they'll have the Unbots on their side this time, and I already think that is enough. I love giving molluskk a big team fighting tool like this and taking away from Houdini's because it was stifling in game 1.
I like it. It's a god that can still fight well enough early on. You really need to hit level 5, but his jungle clear is phenomenal, some of the best in the game. So I think this is a good pick for Blugin and the Woogys. I'm interested to see where Heimdallr is going to go, if this is going to be for Crimson or for Halfghost. I think Heimdallr might be a little bit better in the mid lane right now than in that long lane. I just love the pressure that he provides, the ability to outbox your enemy mid laner. And Persephone is certainly a goddess that can be very aggressive, but giving you a Heimdallr means that it's very difficult for her to step up.
Oh, Heeed and Susano coming in. We're not going to quite get a chance to look at that cool new Tier 5 skin just yet, but I'm still excited to have Heeed around anyway. Pretty nuts, isn't it?
So insane.
Our team just continues to kill it every time they get an opportunity to. But in this game, though, I'm still expecting for this Heeed to have a pretty nice matchup. I love seeing the Susano hin too. Might be a little bit for Susano's fully online, but once he is, he's so hard to deal with, especially with Heartseeker, and sometimes there's Transcendence in these builds too, and all that power at his disposal. He does so much work. But, sorry, Agra, I talked too long. I'm not going to get another chance to hear from you. We got to go right into game number 2, Houdinis versus Blugin and the Woogys.
Well, Blugin and the Woogys are looking to fight back here and pull one back into their favor. And these best of 3s, Houdinis knocking on the door of win number 1 here in Group B over in NA. They're going to pick Olorun up. So some low pick rate gods rather coming out now for Blugin and the Woogys. Olorun, we've only seen him 9% of the time. What do you expect out of him from Halfghost?
From Halfghost, it's a wild card. Truly it is. I would want to keep my eyes really on this Heimdallr in the mid lane. Aggro called it out. It is very potent in the mid lane. I hate agreeing with the guy. I truly do. But I prefer it there.
The Heimdallr in the mid lane.
Yeah, the Heimdallr. Yeah, the Heimdallr in the mid lane. Yes.
What? Is that...
Yeah, the Heimdallr. Am I saying that right?
Well, if you're gonna say it like that, you gotta do the hand gesture with it, right?
Well, I mean, chat's. I'm not on cam, but I did do it, chat. I'm doing the hand thing. Heimdallr in the mid lane. That huge in-hand auto attack damage is gonna come out really potent against this Bayroneri on Persephone. However, Persephone in that matchup with a long-range poke might be a little bit difficult for Crimson to get in and be really relevant in the fight.
Well, what do you make of now this long lane matchup between Nesfor on this Heeed and Halfghost? We touched on the Olorun a little bit. It's going to be a lot of poke to withstand throughout that laning phase.
I can't imagine a world in which Olorun truly wants to take the fight, barring Heeed jumping in and not having his own ultimate available. Those are the criteria Olorun needs to meet in order to safely and confidently take a fight against this Heeed. Barring that, I imagine it's going to be a lot of farm over there. I said it last game, Hunters are kind of just content to sit over and auto-attack waves that come directly to them. As a jungler, I can't imagine that privilege to just have your farm delivered to you by the game itself.
Right, you have to walk to it and then secure it while it's in its own little
contested by
camp.
enemy teams and little camps that are in neutral objectives throughout the map, but on the other side,
right, when you're in the long lane, it's just they're walking towards you.
Yeah, enemies literally can't kill your minions, but they can kill mine. That's just how it is.
So, Mifflin is wishing in days gone that he had maybe pivoted over to the hunter role. Did win a world championship in the jungle role though, so you were good at going to your farm and securing it, right?
Once upon a time, when I wasn't good at it, we lost games, but and we did lose games. That's truly what happened. However, Halfghost doing exactly what I predicted in that lane and just playing back, not even going to move forward at all, barring to just hit the wave. And that's all he really can do, and that's all I want him to do. The decision-making factor for the early game this match is around that middle lane, whether or not Heimdallr can get the upper hand on Persephone with the assistance of the junglers. molluskk, the second he hits 5, is going to be so relevant in these fights. As they said, that's a huge team fight ultimate that I love having on the side of Bloogy the Woogys. Houdinis were so stifling with it, as Finch said.
Oh, small engagement by the blue buff does leave Blugin licking his wounds, but does leave Gamma with the blue buff in tow. So net win there maybe for either side, depending on how you want to look at that one as he returns back to the mid lane. And speaking of kind of these low pick rate gods, we now see Susano out for SpreeeN. What do you expect from him in that jungle?
I mean, Susano is one of the highest mobility gods in the game, as well as he has huge setup in the second ability, going to be able to pull enemies towards him. And if that goes through, they can use the ultimate, but Halfghost going to have to get his beats forced out here, but molluskk behind them might be able to move in, just steal this Alpha Harpy, or if he hits 5 off this, go in for the kill.
He was close by. Nesfor maybe privy to that. And Alpha Harpy taken up there. So interestingly enough, I was kind of keeping my eyes on Heeed. He didn't pick up a relic initially out of base, and just now grabbed himself that blink. What's maybe that decision-making process look like?
So in solo lane, traditionally, you go for teleport, right?
Yeah.
You want to be able to get back to your lane
And Gamma
quickly.
has
You're the
blink as
only
well.
one responsible for it. But you don't pick up a relic on your first walk out of base. You don't do it on the first rotation of buys. You wait until you have to back to base and see whether or not you're going to be forced into using that teleport. And if you're not, you can go for a little bit more aggressive and active. Maybe a bracer, maybe a blink, maybe a sunder. Looks like both people are going to elect to go for this blink here. But the real interesting pickup is Vamana got that Teleria boots. That's low power output. He's not going to be rotating for a while, I assume. Teleria boots only really good for the rotations. But if we see a Frostalis build on Gamma, that's the Frostbound Hammer and the Hastened Katana. He might be able to use that Teleria boots to move in towards the middle lane a little bit quicker and answer this Persephone from Houdini's.
So potent when he has his ultimate. A couple lockdown. Gamma is in that ultimate form. Shiaaaaa, he drops at the hands of molluskk for first blood in this one. SpreeeN turns around. Tornado rips right on through to even this one up. Bayroneri beads out. Crimson's ultimate this time, but can he dodge the one final attack? He's able to dash away. There's a second kill in the back line. Heeed finds himself 1. Blugin goes down. Houdinis, they snag themselves 2.
Bayroneri losing his beads there is huge. There's so many tools that just kill anyone that doesn't have beads at this point. If molluskk finds the Fear No Evil, that's a dead Persephone. If Crimson finds his ultimate, that's a dead Persephone. If Blugin rotates in and just throws him into your tower, that's a dead Persephone. You have to play incredibly cautious going forward now until his beats are back up. Halfghost in a little bit of trouble.
He got marked, got stunned, and then ulted on, but he's able to escape that one. Didn't have his beads, so playing with fire there, going that close up against Nesfor. Now you talk about a lot of the beads being burnt and kind of, some gods rather going for the blink in this game versus teleport, things like that. SpreeeN moves in to those beads, has to use them in the final fight. A bit of a difference there where molluskk has gone for the blink instead. So more gap close for that Batz.
Yeah, when your jungler is forced to pick up beads as their first active, you're kind of on the back foot already. I can't blame SpreeeN for it. I mean, as I said, Heimdallr ult, Batz ult, Jing ult, all of these are death sentences essentially in the early game. So electing to go blink as you normally would on the jungler is going to be incredibly dangerous. I've lost many a game for not looking at my enemy's comp in scrims or even at lands and just picking up blink because that's what my muscle memory dictated.
You've lost games, Myth?
A couple.
I don't believe it.
I mean, you've never seen it,
That's true.
and chat will never see it again, but I have lost a couple.
But that was many moons ago. That was way back when, and you're on a 436 game win streak now.
Yeah, I'm the 2-time champion, all that stuff.
1993, 1994, right, back to back. The whole rigmarole. Houdinis, despite losing first blood over to Bloogy and the Woogys in that small right side engagement, were able to pick up 2 kills. That effectively evens up the gold differential here in this game, and shades of maybe game number 1. starting out here where there was a first blood and then 2 kills traded out. And then both teams just effectively spent the next 5 to 10 minutes just kind of hanging out and free farming, but maybe an early emphasis on the Fury this time.
I imagine we see a fight erupt around the Fury, this time from the side of Bloogie and the Woogys. We saw last game that they wanted to play aggressive in the enemy jungle the entirety of the match, and now they actually have the tools to succeed with it in these teamfight ultimates out of their jungler. So I imagine that they continue that aggression, but it's on them to not get discouraged by that last match.
Fair enough, and Houdinis have found themselves in a decent spot here with only Shiaaaaa as the one death on this side. Small XP advantage in the jungle as molluskk was able to find that first kill for Bloogie and the Woogys. And that Hoonbat's in game 1 so impactful in the jungle role. And with molluskk with just this little bit of a lead, that's something I think he looks to push over SpreeeN, who's just a touch behind him.
When I'm playing Hoonbats, I really don't like to move in aggressive until I finish that first item. Whether or not he elects for it to be a Jotun's Wrath or a Crusher, either way it's going to be such a huge power spike that maybe after that he needs about 200 or 300 more gold. He's going to return to base. Then he's going to look to make these aggressive plays. I imagine Heeed would be a decent target. He's been playing so aggressive in that long lane that it should be an easy enough gank. Or find that Persephone, but now her beads are available again. It's going to be a little bit harder to kill her. That opportunity has passed.
That's true. You were looking for kind of immediate turnaround aggression once 2 or 3 of those beads were burnt in that right side engagement. But there really wasn't much else there from Bloogie and the Woogys. They got the beads down. They just took what they had and left it there. More blue buff engagements, as we've so often seen. Heeed is in that rage form, so you have to be careful depending on how long this one lasts. Whirlwind of Rage and Steel into that Fear No Evil. That's a couple locked down. Gamma turns into the giant baby, and he's whacking away some good damage as Heeed turns around the damage onto Blugin. That's 3rd kill on the board for the Houdinis. Heeed has to blink out of this one, so blink paying off this time as Houdinis grab another kill.
molluskk single-handedly lost them that fight. I hate calling out my boy. I love molluskk, but you can't blink in and use your... well, hold that thought. Halfghost in a little bit of trouble. I'll break down that bad play in a second.
He is in the sanctified field, but he's going to be able to dash his way out of this one. So both hunters, I guess you consider Olorun the hunter in this case, are left just about half health. molluskk was close by, but that one fizzles out.
All right, let me go in on this man real quick.
Go ahead. Hands together.
Xing's got 2 people in the circling ultimate, right?
Correct.
That is CC that they can't avoid unless they use their beads.
Correct.
He's holding him against the wall. He's going to throw him into the wall. molluskk blinks in and drops his ultimate during the duration of the spin period of Xing's ultimate. So that's all lost CC. Undr'able CC that is just lost to the world because he couldn't hold his ultimate for another second. He could have got maybe 2 autos, a full ability off, then use his ultimate. That would have extended the CC for at least 2 full seconds and confirm some easy kills for Bloogie and the Woogys. Instead, a little bit trigger happy, a little bit too quick on his ultimate, drops some kills and loses lives on the side of his team.
Well, beads burnt just a moment ago from Halfghost in that small engagement, and maybe Bloogie and the Woogys are going to be hoping, or wishing rather, that they had a couple of those kills on the board, as Crimson is going to use that crystal to get himself back to safety, and we like to see that. We always have to give props to the Heimdalls that take the crystal back to safety instead of back from base.
Yeah, I mean, Heimdallr not teleporting in the lane. I'm glad he must be watching the stream, right? He has to be watching these broadcasts. Gold Fury getting pulled by Houdinis here. Should be largely uncontested. You got a level 12 Heeed just running down everybody. Halfghost the only one in position to go on it.
Crimson has knocked away Heeed in the mid lane, who's since fallen down. Gamma, he's found the kill on the back end of it, but Halfghost locks down SpreeeN. Elsewhere on the map, Bloogie and the Woogys, they have moved this one closer kill-wise. Heeed, wrong direction there. Halfghost, he's going to be able to turn tail and get out of this one. Rage form is starting to wear down now from Heeed. Uses the dash just to disengage. So a couple of kills for Bloogie and the Woogys to at least even that one up. That's Fury secured by the Houdinis.
They largely equalize the gold lead. Heeed, man, I don't know about that blink. It looks like nervous play from both sides there. Heeed saw Halfghost, and he blinked past him. He waited to see him. I was largely confused by that. I can't really break that down outside of maybe just nervous play.
It was a weird blink.
It was weird blink is the best. That's the most eloquent way to state it, isn't it?
And you know what? And that's what we get paid for. It was a weird blink. And that's about the only way to describe that one. So blink down, but only for about 70 or so more seconds, so certainly not a game-ending change there as an engagement in the middle lane continues. Bayroneri from far back is going to drop down the ultimate, lock down Blugin, but not enough damage is going to take down that Xing Qin. Now that we kind of approach this 12-minute mark, you talked about what you wanted to see out of SpreeeN on the Susano. Have you seen enough? He's 2 levels down. He does have a kill and an assist on the board, but have you seen enough?
I think you kind of set me up with that. 2 levels down, you know, his squad's not really doing too great. No, that's not exactly what you want to see from Susano. These more mobile junglers should be able to pull ahead on farm if they're not ganking.
Sure.
I haven't really seen SpreeeN get involved too heavily in these fights yet. Nothing really stuck to my eye. So he should be moving around the jungle very quickly, picking up farm, you know, leeching waves here and there. Instead, falls 2 levels behind to molluskk, who has been getting involved in every fight he humanly can, as molluskk has done since the beginning of time. And he still has this 2-level lead, even though he's sacrificing a little bit of his own farm. We've seen Crimson as well, taking away some of the back camps on the side of molluskk. As Doug points out, he likes to pick up the Brawler's Beat Stick. That's pretty standard as far as jungle builds go.
Sure.
As long as molluskk continues to play as aggressive as he has and not make too many mistakes like they did last game, Bloogy Woogys are looking pretty good here. The gold lead is in favor of Houdini's, but as I said earlier, their team fight presence from Bloogy Woogys, their comp is so much better insofar as the pure fight potential.
The gold differential, thanks in large part to that Fury secured a few moments ago. Some XP differential still in favor. I mean, it's not often you see that, right? I mean, it is the Fury secured by the Houdinis that I think makes a big difference, but it's a 2k XP differential for Bloogy Woogys.
And that is a bigger deal than the 500 gold split between 5 people.
I'd agree.
But 2,000 experience in of itself, again, not too big of a deal. It's really how they leverage that XP lead. Pyromancer not available, Gold Fury not available. I imagine we might see a group up around a tower, or maybe move in towards the enemy jungle to try and steal away some camps. Gamma being a little bit disrespectful on this blue buff, going to take that away.
And Gamma snags it and goes back. Talk to me now a little bit about this Vamana. I mean, we've touched on some of the low pick rates between Olorun and Susano. Vamana, this is the first time we've seen him in the SCC in NA, and Gamma's made it look good so far.
Vamana's been making a tear through high-level ranked play in NA. He's so oppressive. The second he goes into that big baby form, it looks like he's electing to pick up that hastened right now. I imagine he's just going to use that to sit on top of anyone that he wants to, truly. If Huyi's jump is down, he's going to be able to sit on him with the auto attacks not really mitigating his movement speed. He can sit on top of Susano if their abilities are down. The only ones he really can't bully out too harshly are Kukulkan and Terra. Oh, there it is, the Hasten Katana. Good luck to the enemy mage, Persephone. Her dash, already not the best escape tool in the game. Now going to be a little bit more difficult as a giant healing baby with AoE auto attacks runs you down.
Yeah, make it sound any more frightening than that. I don't want to be playing against it, but unfortunately the Houdinis have to. I know you mentioned you might like to see the Frostbound Hammer to kind of round out some of that build. You get the extra haste, of course, when you get the Hasten Katana. The Frostbound Hammer, of course, going to slow them down. Is that always necessary to kind of double stack those 2 items, slow them, and also speed yourself?
It isn't entirely necessary, but it is the most toxic way to play. And that's kind of fun to play as. Definitely not to play against. It's fun to see.
Sure.
However, with the Teleria boots pickup, I can imagine he can elect not to go towards the Frostbound. Frostbound's generally, if you go for the more powerful boots, like attack speed boots or the power boots, Warrior Tabi, you don't have quite enough movement speed to keep up with these faster gods. But with Teleria and Hasten, you can elect not to go towards that Frostbound, maybe go for a little bit tankier build or find some penetration in your build. It depends whether or not he feels confident enough to go more damage or tankier. It looks like he's going to go just a little bit tankier, but one more item available. Could even see a Crusher come out from him. Very potent on Vamana.
Well, as things have slowed down, you kind of look towards maybe what the teams decide to do next. And the Houdinis right now positioning themselves around the Oracles. Secured, though, by Bloogy Woogys. So they're going to have sight of that Fury that Houdinis were just looking towards. So a good bit of defensive utility there from them, or offensive, depending on which way they want to look at it. What do you want to see next, though, from Bloogy Woogys? You've kept yourself in this game. You turn around a bit of a deficit. You pick up a few more kills. What's next 17 minutes into this game?
You want to look to start an objective, force the fight, and then immediately engage on the Houdinis once they move up. But instead, it looks like Houdinis are going to get the defender's position, as I'm going to elect to call it from here on out. as they pull the Primal Fury, and it's dropping fast.
Warded, Blugin spins around, Houdinis, they secure this one. Blugin caught down, Sanctified Field drapes over the battlefield, and there are 3 members of the Houdinis caught in that one. Deep in the back line, SpreeeN has found a kill onto Halfghost as Crimson is left running. Gamma takes to the large form and is going to be finding some good damage, but the moment you drop out, you got everyone from the Houdinis looking at you. Luckily, enough move speed, and the kit is going to get him out alive. So the Houdinis, they secure their second Fury and grab a kill as well.
I mean, Bloogy and the Woogys do have the superior team fight comp inside the jungle. However, they elected to go into that fight staggered. You know, Blugin went in first, couldn't quite find anyone with his ultimate. Halfghost gets picked out instantly as Gamma zones off 3. It's rough. It's rough for them. Houdini's got to move around, regardless of being zoned, and just deal the damage that he needed to. SpreeeN finally caught up in XP there. We saw a slow game from him in the beginning. As I said, 2 levels down, you expect a quicker clear to be able to keep up in XP regardless of not getting involved in these fights. So that's exactly what he did. He was matched with molluskk and experience. They went into the fight and did his damage in the backline so well.
Pyro started and finished by the Houdinis, so as all was even around 15 minutes into this game, a Fury and a kill, and now a Pyromancer picked up by the Houdinis. In this game, the scales have ever so slightly tilted over towards the Houdinis now. They're going to stay grouped over here. I mean, with Fire Giant up, I guess that's the right call. You stay grouped close by. You don't want to give up anything for free.
As well as they know that Olorun is over there in the long lane, they could elect to push down this tower, maybe move in towards the Fire Giant if they have any wards available to drop those, get a clear vision path. Olorun making no moves towards the Fire Giant side of the map. SpreeeN also has eyes on molluskk. They know that Heimdallr is in mid. They could elect to take the fight in the solo.
He has to use the relic. Is he able to get out?
Nice
Up,
job.
down goes molluskk. Bloogy and the Woogys, they pull one back. I don't know if you call it overextended when he's on his own red buff, but well positioned there by molluskk to grab the kill.
I mean, I'll call it overextended. He
Sure.
knew that molluskk was there. They were playing the dance around the red buff, and he just got outplayed in the 1v1. That's really all that happened. Gamma going into an early ultimate here. Not quite sure what that's about. Maybe he was worried about a little bit of CC coming out from Heeed in that transformed form. Now he's going to run back over to his lane and continue farming like all these privileged lane farmers do get to do.
This is the hill we're dying on today, is that if you're not in the jungle, the minions come to you, and it's the easiest thing in the world to grab your gold.
Yeah, shout out to my support players. They got to work a little bit hard too.
That's right, yeah, Blugin, he has to farm up where he can, but now that Crimson is returned, Crimson is going to grab the rest of that farm. Xing Qin was something they talked about early in Picks and Bans, really before game number 1. He had a bit of a iffy win rate maybe at best, but I still think, as far as gods go, he has a great kit for team fighting.
I mean, if you really think about it, his 1 is going to reduce the amount of damage that auto attacks can do.
Good.
His 2 is going to knock up and then root.
Sounds good.
His 3 is 2 escape jumps or 2 aggressive jumps that deal relatively decent damage.
Okay.
65 per, and as well as giving you protections. And then the coup de grace, the creme de la creme, the ultimate CC immunity, a huge spin, going to grab as many members as you can hit and throw them in any direction that you want while simultaneously doing huge damage to them. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Xing Shen's really good.
Nothing you've said sounds bad to me at all, so
I
makes
couldn't
sense.
make it if I tried. I could not make it sound bad if I tried.
I was going to try to make you make any of that sound bad, but I think it would be a little bit too difficult to suddenly turn around here. And suddenly a new air of confidence, I think, around Bloogy and the Woogys. They were able to pick off SpreeeN just a moment ago, and you can see how this game has kind of maybe tilted back closer to even. The Houdinis had all of the momentum on the back of the Pyromancer and the Fury fight, but just one pick, such a different feeling here in this game.
Yeah, Bloogy and the Woogys, they're on the back foot just a little bit on that pick, but Houdinis as well, I've said it all game, their team fight comp is not quite as good.
Sure.
molluskk on that Hunbat's ultimate, Halfghost with the Sanctified Field, they have so much, as well as Gamma going to be able to disrupt that backline, but if you take a peek over that player damage chart, only 4.3k coming out of molluskk, only about 4.4 coming out of Olorun. These damage numbers are so low, they're low across the board, but with these huge ultimates, these CC giant circles, you'd expect that they should be able to find a little bit more 22 minutes into the game.
Well, you're maybe not thrilled about full-blown team fights, then what are you looking for if you're the Houdinis?
If I'm the Houdinis, I'm looking to take picks. I'm trying to get vision throughout the jungle, group up around the Fire Giant, maybe even go towards the tower and look for some long-range poke out of Bayroneri, and then as the fight maybe shifts towards your favor, if you can drop someone around half health, that's when you can start to look towards taking these fights.
Well, the Fury is back up and respawn, and as such, both teams starting to move themselves closer. Houdinis have secured the previous 2, and they are starting up the 3rd one here. This one is the Oni Fury with Heeed playing zone. Crimson is going to move in, and Blugin is in range as well. In the back line, Gamma lurking, could look for an engagement. Pops the ultimate, and he's got a few zoned out. Heeed caught between the entire team here. Bloogie the Woogys looking to run them down. Blugin uses the ultimate, but beads out by a couple members of the Houdinis, so ultimate's used. 3 only up available. Bayroneri tosses his out as well. Shiaaaaa, he's going to dash in, but that's a return dash from molluskk, who drops the ultimate in the Sanctified Field, drapes over as well. He takes a little bit too much damage. Bloogie and the Woogys, they put that team fighting comp to good use and find themselves a pick.
That Sanctified Field was so powerful, as well as that knock-up inside of it. That might as well have been a 4-second knock-up as he sat there and took damage from the enemy team. But Houdinis don't look like they're ready to give this up.
And Shiaaa's going to move in, and they're able to grab the Fury. Bloogie thought they had it. No way, says Shiaaaaa, as the Terra slides on in and grabs the Fury for the Houdinis. Are you able to get out alive? That's the next question. Gamma cleans up Bayroneri, so you at least grab one more kill for your team on the back end of it. But what a play from Shiaaaaa to keep things a little bit more even in this engagement.
Blugin the Woogys still 5 strong, 2 down for the side of Houdinis. They can elect to move in towards the Fire Giant here. Yes, they lost that objective, but it's not that huge a deal with Pyro and Fire still on the map.
Well, it's Oni secured, so the waves are going to be pushing a little bit extra from the Houdinis. And I think at least smart for a moment for SpreeeN and Nesfor to just kind of hang around, because that's often the trap, right? You do the Fury immediately back, and then the enemy team rotates over to Fire, and Shiaaaaa, realizing this may be the case, is going to attempt his 2nd objective steal of the match. He's not going to get that chance, so it is Pyromancer secured, but enough of a presence from that Terra is going to make Bloogie think twice about starting Fire.
I imagine if Blugie's pathing were just a little bit more conservative, instead of rotating in through the enemy speed buff, they could have went straight towards Fire Giant, dropped some wards along the way. They could have looked to pick it up, or at least force Houdinis into moving a little bit further out of their own side of the map and get a potential secondary fight into some more picks and see if they could snowball it from there. Instead, they chased out the fight just a little bit too far, didn't give Houdinis any chances to make mistakes on their own.
And so we kind of touch on it. We imagine that FG is going to be the next big objectives that these 2 teams kind of group around. As a composition, who are you feeling more confident in just straight up objective burn versus secure, and what fights are you maybe trying to take on either side?
As far as pure objective burn, I still have to give it to Bloogie and the Woogys, because they essentially have 2 ADCs in this Olorun and this Heimdallr. But as
You're
far as
changing it every time.
as far as the fight goes, we're going to give it over to Houdinis now. They've proven time and again that regardless of these better comp from Bloogie and the Woogys, that they're able to fight into it. But now that there's a slight lead in the side of Bloogie and the Woogys, maybe I'm choosing the wrong time to start switching who I'm rooting for a little bit. But, you know, that's just me. I got to play the contrarian role. Fire Giant should be largely contested by both squads. So
yeah, are you contesting it if you're the Houdinis? You've lost the last couple of fights.
Yeah, you kind of have to at this point. There's so many towers left on the map. But the fight starts around.
Try to fight here. Fear No Evil dropped from molluskk, sends Shiaaaaa running, but tanky enough to keep him alive. Sanctified Field in a good spot once more, but Halfghost catches too much damage from SpreeeN, who's able to get himself out. Gamma takes to the ultimate as well as Nesfor tries to get out of this one. Bayroneri, no ultimate to lock anyone down, and Gamma finds himself the kill. It's a 1-for-1 engagement here so far. That's 3 members of the Houdinis locked down beneath their own tier 2 tower here in the mid lane. Heeed tanky enough. I think he'll be just fine here. So you lose your mid, but you trade out for Halfghost on that Olorun. I'm not sure who comes out ahead.
It's about absolutely even. Every ultimate use, about every single active use on the side of the Houdinis. Bloogie and the Woogys coming out a little bit ahead in that they still have every active available on that Heimdallr. But they can't really look towards the Fire Giant here, as it's still a 4v4, and both gods are spawning around the same time, about 7-second deficit. That's not quite enough to get a confident start on that Fire Giant. So we're going to continue to see this dance around this major objective.
Well, a couple of blinks. You kind of take tabs on the actives. Both Aegis and Beads for ErupTCrimson are available, and Aegis and Beads as well for Bayroneri. So mid laners are going to be plenty safe depending on how those actives are used. That's always a big if, right? We've seen some good, some bad, but if nothing else, they'll at least have the ability to stay safe. And then an Aegis for Nesfor as well. So a good fight, at least for burning the actives. But I think I give props to Houdini's, where you've kind of time and again lost one member here, one member there, and that's put you at a bit of a deficit. They keep taking these fights. They're confident going into this mid to late game.
And that's how I'd quantify their gameplay. Houdini's are playing confidently their own game, whereas Bloogy and the Woogys, I'm feeling like they're a little bit more hesitant than I'd like to see. They usually have this unbridled aggression playstyle, and it hasn't really come to fruition yet this set. It's whether or not Houdini's can identify that Olorun still has no actives available could shift the tides of this game.
Ultimate used and Sanctified Fields is going to drop at the back. Whirlwind of Rage and Steel tosses back Shiaaaaa, but he's still in this fight. Gamma being dropped as he's 1v4 in the rest of the fight. You did lose Heeed, so solo laners are down, and it's looking very similar to what we have seen previously, where both teams lose one, and they're still on the back foot. But Bayroneri is low enough that it makes it a 4v3, at least for the moment. Tier 2 still being fought over. Blugin trying to move in. Nesfor turns around the damage.
Nesfor's on a tear.
molluskk dropped the ultimate and was looking for something, but finds nothing. Blugin back to base for another 45 seconds. That makes it a 2-for-1 in the grand scheme of things for the Houdinis.
Doug hovered all the anti-heal there, making it so much harder for Gamma to just walk around uncontested. That ultimate, the heal is going to be mitigated by so much. Divine Ruin, Brawler's Beatstick. But if you really take a look at his build, it is lacking so much in physical defense, and Nesfor went largely unchecked. He's just sinking ultimates, especially now that Crit's back in the meta. You can't leave Hunters just to pew-pew you from behind. You got to focus them, make sure they can't get that damage off for free. Nesfor went on an absolute tear that fight.
Well, you can do a lot of damage to gods and can also do a lot of damage to these objectives. Fire Giant down to about half HP. Bloogy and the Woogys sense something is brewing over here in the FG
Burning
pit.
fast.
Blugin just now back off respawn. If you want to take this fight, it's going to be a 4v5 until he's able to rejoin. Fire Giant getting low. Houdini's able to secure this one. Can they get anything else? molluskk says no thanks. And that's FG over to the Houdinis.
That's props to Houdini's there. With an enemy god as low health as molluskk was, it takes a lot of discipline not to completely chase out that fight after you confirm the objective. I like the call to back up. They know that they've been on the back foot for the majority of these fights, so they want to go ahead and spend the gold that they just acquired, as well as get ready to push down some towers with this Fire Giant. I imagine we see all the towers on the map drop here. Maybe not a Phoenix, but that gold swing would be largely huge. But those pings are telling me otherwise. They want that Phoenix.
They're going to move to the left side of their jungle here as a Primal Fury has spawned out this time. They have secured the previous 3, thanks to a cheeky steal from Shiaaaaa in the previous engagement. And where Bloogy and the Woogys had found themselves relative success in team fights, they've been a little bit more shy about it, as you point out, not fully engaging. And that has tilted this game one more time back in favor of the Houdinis. You look at kind of the back and forth, a 10k XP differential for Bloogy and the Woogys, but thanks to Fire Giant, thanks to Fury, number 4, Houdinis have grabbed the gold back on their side.
As well as every member is level 20, except for
so
the
that's what
supports
matters, right?
who are level 17. And yeah, that is exactly what matters. The XP differential not really meaning quite too much anymore. That gold differential doesn't really mean anything because there isn't one.
Well,
so
maybe
base race?
Yeah, base racing. Right side Phoenix, left side Phoenix. Are they going to send anyone back? I'm not sure who has the faster burn here. 4, maybe 5 members going back from the Houdinis. They're going to lose their right side Phoenix. And only Shiaaaaa stays for that left side Phoenix. They are not going to be able to get anything. Bloogy and the Woogys, they're going to move in. What an engagement. Sanctified Field into the Fear No Evil. Buys them a great amount of CC as Bayroneri. He's backpedaling through this one. Gamma finds the kill. 2 down from the Houdinis. What a turn. What a play from Bloogy and the Woogys.
I love that. Stacking up on the corner there, waiting for them to move up even a little bit. You know, Houdinis didn't quite respect that they were willing to fight there. I don't think they... I mean, who's going to predict 5 dudes just sitting on a corner waiting for you? Not me. But
couldn't be me.
It couldn't be me. Houdinis need to respect that just a little bit more. They didn't use their Fire Giant very well. They staggered their back so that they didn't fight alongside their Terra. They didn't trade out the Phoenixes. They could have sent one target back, maybe stop the Titan from falling or check and see if they would move in towards the Titan. Instead, they get nothing for it. Now, it looks like Bloogy and the Woogys are going to just continue to barrel down these lanes.
Well, that's what we've wanted to see from them, is now the mid Phoenix is under attack. Shiaaa's going to use the ultimate, try to sustain his team. Plenty of damage onto Bloogy and the Woogys, but can he confirm any kills? Shiaaa's trying to. Nesfor doesn't want to bite off too much. So you turn around so much damage. Halfghost, red HP. Blugin, red HP. molluskk and Gamma, both in yellow. Not able to get any kills, but they do save that mid Phoenix.
I mean, that's just it again. Nesfor went unchecked on that Phoenix defense. They were just looking at everyone besides him, and he's the only one dealing damage for the side of Houdini's in any of these fights right now because he's going largely unchecked as a full build ADC. They need to start focusing him if they want to see any success going forward.
Quickly, Mifflin, take me back to that base race. Houdini, is there a world where you maybe just stay and try to outrace, at least get the left side Phoenix before going back?
Insofar as damage, they could trade the Phoenix. They could send maybe 2 targets back to prevent the Titan falling, as I said earlier. If it goes to a Titan-based race and both teams have 5 on each Titan, it's going to Bloogy and the Woogys every single time with that essentially double ADC in the Halfghost and ErupTCrimson. Olorun going to be using those magical crits, the only guy in the game that has them, and Crimson just going to be using those Heimdallr autos.
That is the 5th rendition of that name you've gotten. Your creativity astounds me, and I can't wait for him to get picked again and see which way you go next time. Fire minions were pouring down that right-hand lane if you're looking from the Houdini's perspective, and got a little bit of damage onto the Titan. Not enough that it really makes any sort of difference in this one. But that is going to move the Houdinis over to that right side, except for SpreeeN. If there is an engagement here, they're going to be 1 jungler down, whereas 5 members of Bloogy and the Woogys are going to be grouped together. Fear No Evil drop down onto Shiaaaaa. Has to use the ultimate, but that's not enough to keep him alive. molluskk finds the pick. The engagement continues back onto Heeed, and as well as Bayroneri as Gamma into the big form is going to try to find some damage and keep himself hastened. But SpreeeN back now in position as his team has already lost 1.
That's so rough. Fire Giant spawning in 20 seconds. There's going to be 20 seconds that Shiaaaaa isn't alive while Fire Giant is. I imagine that the Houdinis are going to have to just give it up. Yeah. I wouldn't go in there. You'd have to go in as 4. Bloogy and the Woogys already showing that they are so dominant in these team fights now. molluskk finally getting some good usage out of that Fear No Evil, just setting people up left and right in these fights. Bloogy and the Woogys are looking really good going forward. Right side Phoenix down, middle Phoenix still available to be taken. They also have a tower that they can move in towards, but Houdini's hovering a little bit close to this Fire Giant, flying a little close to the sun.
They do have it warded. Heeed, only one really in range. Doesn't have his rage form yet. He is going to jump in. SpreeeN, he's there as well. They get it! Houdinis, they steal it away. SpreeeN, the miracle play. 4 men strong, and you're not going to fight that one. They move in, they grab FG, and they're going to go back to base.
That entire time, Gamma was trying to zone out Nesfor, and he kept him from getting in there, but look at his health right now. Gamma needs to be able to sit on this Hunter. He needs to maybe shift towards a Nemean, get something like a Mid-Guardian. He can't be tanking autos like this. It was only about 5 autos that landed onto him from Nesfor, dropped him to about 1/10 health. Someone needs to check him on their side. molluskk is probably the only one that can, insofar as that they can burn Nesfor's beads so that molluskk can take that fight. It's just not quite enough. The magic defense focus is just too much on the side of Vamana.
And it was, you know, a few minutes ago, but Ikavale rounding out.
There it is. The Nemean pickup. Smart.
You're happy with the Nemean line pickup.
Yeah, we do like that a lot. It could also have gone towards Spectral, but, you know, high to the Nemean, the classic crit counter.
We're going to be able to see what SpreeeN was able to do here. Heeed was in range. So much of the focus was on him. SpreeeN moves himself through. Just going to burn down that last little bit. And that keeps Houdini's, I hesitate to even say keeps them in this game. Suddenly, they might even have the edge.
I mean, last time they had Fire Giant, they just got outmaneuvered all the way. More than anyone has ever been outmaneuvered before. It was literally nuts. So Houdini's maybe a little bit smarter this time on their push. They could leverage it a little bit better, at least get a singular Phoenix or these 2 tier 2 towers that still stand on the side of Bloogy and the Woogys. SpreeeN stealing away that Fire Giant is off the back of Bloogy and the Woogys not having any sort of traditional confirm, right?
Sure.
There's no mage with huge burst damage. I mean, Sanctified Field is going to make it hard for people to move in, but that's not going to kill an objective, as well as ErupTCrimson on the mid lane. Heimdallr, that's not enough. It's not enough. It's not going to hit an objective at all.
Fair enough. molluskk has to use Blink to get himself out of range of Shia's lockdown there. Left side, still the point of contact here for the Houdinis, as Shiaaa is maybe going to rotate towards that mid lane. This time, though, I don't think Bloogy and the Woogys are looking quite for that same base race scenario. You might just have to defend the Phoenix. There are still 2 tier 2 towers, and that's maybe the better objective confirm there for the Houdinis.
At this point, if the Houdinis can get into the enemy Titan with at least 3 enemies down on the side of Bloogy and the Woogys, regardless of the additional health and defense from those tier 2 towers, they will just win, as you just said. but I imagine they will go towards those towers because it's an easier fight to take. If you take the fight to the tier 2s and Blugin the Woogys elect to defend those rather than the Phoenixes, that is a slight mistake in of itself. Makes it a little bit easier to take that fight.
Sure.
So it's a good way to try and force Blugin the Woogys into making easier mistakes. And that's kind of how you want to approach these fights.
Right.
It's not always that taking the Phoenix is overall better, but you can give Blugin the Woogys the chance to dig their own grave.
Well, this is the 4-1 split. They had sent SpreeeN to deal with the last couple Oni waves in the right-hand side. And might look to move in. Heeed, he's going to transform very shortly here. Blugin moves himself in. That's molluskk and the Xing ultimate down. Sanctified Fields, that rings through. Nesfor has found some good damage with his ult as well. Gamma locks down some, but he's absolutely melted by the Hou-Yi. One man down, 65 seconds as Houdinis, they pick up a kill.
Kurstonk being hovered right now, removing heals in all, and also making them take 20% more damage, 20% more. Almost like a little mini crit, especially when Nesfor slamming
Oh,
them
big
auto.
knock-up and plenty of damage returned from Crimson. Halfghost finishes off the kill. Nesfor, he has to get himself out. Same with Bayroneri. That was a massive play there from Bloogy and the Woogys. Things were looking dire. 38 seconds before Gamma was able to respawn. They're able to get Shiaaaaa, so there's still plenty of damage on the map for the Houdinis, but a little less utility thanks to that Terra.
Hey, at least this time they got a tier 2 tower, right? That's a little bit better than
Thumbs
losing
up.
a Phoenix.
Right.
So, Nesfor found all the autos he needed to onto Gamma. Unfortunately, Shiaaaaa got a little bit overzealous on the re-engage, trying to move in back towards that Phoenix and got picked out instantly. I would like to see Houdinis play a little bit smarter around the Sanctified Field. Every time it's dropped, they don't stop their engagement. You can always move in towards the Phoenix, get the ultimates dropped by the defenders, leave, heal up with your Fire Giant, and then walk back in. Instead, it seems like they're content to just have that one engagement and continue running with it and just have it play out.
Well, Fire Giant has fallen off after the big steal from SpreeeN. Houdinis may be looking for the next one and send out
Good decision not to teleport in there,
potential.
molluskk.
Right, yeah, he thought about it for a second, but thought twice just at the critical moment. Fire Giant has respawned. Plenty of deep vision from both teams, and Houdinis will know this is going on, but for the moment, looks like just going to be a Pyromancer.
Knowing how the last Fire Giant went, I can't imagine Houdinis ever give up one uncontested, especially now that they've identified that just about everyone on their comp has steal potential because there is no real true confirm from Bloogies. If Nesfor gets in there, his auto attack's going to do about as much damage as anything that Blugin the Woogys can throw out. SpreeeN can use his ultimate. Bayroneri could snipe it or even just use her one. Shiaaaaa could steal it with walls, if we've seen from NA often. It's happened 3 times so far in NA this competitive year. That's nuts to me.
Yeah, more than you would expect from a Terra securing these objectives. It is Enhanced Fire Giant that is now respawned, so a little bit of extra buff for your team. Just crossing that 100,000 gold mark is the Houdinis. Not that it is a massive difference maker. Almost everyone in this game has what they need. molluskk is found, a lockdown. SpreeeN, you're not going to steal it this time. Bloogy and the Woogys still trying to engage, but that's good lockdown from Bayroneri himself on the ultimate to kind of stem that attack. But you get a one-man differential, and that's Fire Giant started up.
Looks like Houdinis are actually going to elect to not contest this one, all returning to base, and that's smart. SpreeeN's one of your best steal potential characters, as well as he's the only one that can really put these squishy targets in Halfghost and Crimson in check. They have to respect his damage output in the back line. Now they just have to group up, play around this defense. Houdini's defense comp is decent, and Terra is going to make it a lot easier for her team to get in there, deal damage to the huge CC root. But the siege potential coming out from Blugin and the Woogys and Xing ultimate, molluskk ultimate, Fear No Evil is so high, as well as if Blugin, or Gamma rather, can just survive the initial onslaught from Nesfor, which it looks like he will now that he has Nemean and Spectral Armor.
Yeah, he sold off the Icavale for an arguably better defensive item.
Yeah, an arguably better build, I would say. Icavale, it's a lot of damage. It truly is. It's an undervalued item, but now that he is a lot tankier, he can sit happily on, well, maybe not happily. Nesfor is dealing a lot of damage, but he can sit safely, more safely than he could previously, as well as he doesn't need to really worry about Persephone damage because it's not consistent enough to really deal with his healing. But with Ankh and Brawler's Beatstick and Divine Ruin, it's going to be very hard for him to move around as Vamana should.
Look at how the Houdinis are playing. Not a single member of their team is outside of their base walls. They have, some ward coverage. You can see the blue wards, somewhere, in their jungle. So they at least have vision in the exits of some of their jungle areas. but they don't want to take a fight anywhere outside of their base.
Not as well as the fact that they have all these plants set up by Persephone on this Phoenix, accurately predicting that is the main Phoenix that most people would go for, furthest from the Fire Giant, makes it easier to go for the next Fire Giant. But if I'm on the side of Bloogie and the Woogys and I see this insane setup of flowers, I might just go ahead and go towards a mid Phoenix or even the short lane Phoenix. That's so much, and she's not going to be able to set it all up again before they can get over there. But that is such huge defense potential that I have to imagine they have to be worried.
Well, we've talked a lot about Nesfor and the damage he's been able to do. Crimson has done plenty himself. Top damage in the game. Next 4 are the Houdinis. Trap looking to get sprung here. Haven't found much for it just yet. It is a 4-1 split as well. Gamma has found himself flipped around with SpreeeN, who is going to make his way back into base. But it is still this left side Phoenix, despite plants lurking for Bayroneri, and Bloogie and the Woogys are going to maybe look for an engage.
Every active available, every ultimate available. It's going to be a pretty important fight going forward. SpreeeN taking a little bit of damage in the mid lane as Blugin engages.
Blugin is going to move in, drops down the Fear No Evil onto Heeed this time. He's melted away, no more solo laner for the Houdinis. Nesfor is able to kite backwards, get some good damage onto Blugin. Shiaaaaa finishes off that kill in the mid lane. Gamma has pushed SpreeeN back off the Phoenix, uses the ultimate, and they're not able to get much. It's a 1-for-1. No Phoenixes is down. No Phoenixes are down. It looks like Bloogie and the Woogys may hang around.
That middle Phoenix being on half health with the Halfghost and Crimson still putting pressure on the long-range Phoenix. It's going to be pretty difficult for them to defend all of them.
Gamma. Nesfor has to use his dash for a bit of disengage on the left-hand side. Bayroneri moves in. Crimson, he goes down, but Halfghost is able to trade out. SpreeeN, he moves himself into this one. Halfghost, see you later. Bayroneri into the passive, grabs the double kill. molluskk, he is slowed here.
Nice
Stunned up. Good shot, Nesfor. Can you finish off the kill? Yes, he can. The lightning zaps him. 4 men down for Bloogie and the Woogys. And maybe a map to take here for the Houdinis.
Nesfor is nutty. If Houdinis takes this game, he's the MVP of the set. I'm calling it. I haven't been bestowed with any real ruling power on who gets to be MVP, but I am declaring it now. Nesfor has deflected every defense. That bounce was sick. He's dealing so much damage. Yes, he's not at the top of the charts for his team, but every bit of damage that he does find is so critical. Gamma, the only one alive, 30 seconds left on the next spawn. Blugin just now spawning. Houdinis could look to go towards a Phoenix, but how they're split up right now will be difficult.
Well, there are 30 seconds left, and you have plenty of damage between SpreeeN and Heeed that you could maybe contest one of these Phoenixes, but instead it looks like they're just going to turn around, maybe start to lock down some of this jungle for themselves, and with 5, 10, 20 seconds respectively on the respawns, that might be the right call. Fire Giant is up in a minute. Fury is up in a minute and 45. So maybe if nothing else, that just bought them a bit more real estate on this map.
Eyes on the consumables. Olorun just picked up his Elixir of Power and a normal power pot. He's going to be dealing so much damage going forward. His crits are going to be chunking. The second that whoever pulls this objective, this next Fire Giant, whoever acquires it, I should say, is going to be primed and ready to go in for this siege. Houdini's going to have a little bit harder time moving in towards the enemy Phoenix, but as we just saw, their defense, although I said it wasn't as strong, and it certainly isn't by merit of just their comp, they're certainly playing at a level that is making up for it. Bloogie and the Woogys are in the driver's seat just about every step of the way, and they just can't really find that finish line.
Oh, almost every relic in the game is available, and once SpreeeN's blink comes back up, that will be the case. He knocks up a couple.
Unfortunate.
Crimson has to dash backwards. He transforms. This could be a case where Bloogie and the Woogys, rather, they just try to disengage. They realize Heeed is in to that ultimate form. He's going to time out of that one here in just a moment, and it might start up the Fire Giant.
Yeah, now that he is so far removed from Rage, as well as he's taken a lot of damage from the poke, and Bayroneri no longer has ultimate, this is Bloogie and the Woogys fight/Fire Giant to take.
Gonna have good old-fashioned Kukulkan doing some fighting for you. Blugin finds one, and Shiaaaaa this time, Sanctified Field, blocks off some of the re-engage. That's Fear No Evil used on Shiaaaaa as well, and they finally get the kill. SpreeeN look to trade one back onto molluskk, who was able to dash his way out. Still very low health on that Hoonbots, but he's going to go back to base. Fire Giant being danced around and now started by Bloogie and the Woogys. Enough damage from Crimson and Halfghost that they're going to be able to melt this one through. No contest from Houdinis, but they're going to rotate to the Fury.
The majority of actives are still available from both teams, so the defense should go either way. You know, Beats Aegis available on all of your carries in the game. That's kind of a huge deal. molluskk going forward, he needs to start finding a little bit more with these ultimates. Yes, he's finding the picks on a Terra, but that's the last 3 fights. That's all they've found off these Fear No Evils. It's such a huge team fight tool, not available currently for this siege. It's going to be very difficult for Blugin the Woogys.
Oni's locked down, but Nesfor has to make his way back to base. Shiaaaaa still respawning for the next 30 seconds, so you're never disadvantaged. Double knockup from Heeed again. He's going to send a couple to the sky. Sanctified Field drapes right back over Heeed, who is going to transform here shortly, but enough of disengage from Nesfor is going to make Bloogie and the Woogys think twice. Shiaaaaa still 10 seconds away on the respawn. Right side Phoenix taken very low here. Nesfor, he's poked out. molluskk finds the engage onto SpreeeN. That's a Whirlwind of Rage and Steel. Tosses Heeed backwards. He's going to drop thanks to the ultimate. ErupTCrimson, he gets that one all cleaned up and a double kill on a Nesfor. You got 2 members left, 2 Houdini's. I'm not sure they're going to get this one done. Mifflin, a great engagement on the right side. Phoenix, you knocked down a couple members. A triple kill from Crimson is going to see this one through.
Should be just about it. Triple kill. What a great way to end it. Crimson looking so good on this Heimdallr that it really justifies that mid pick. I mean, Aggro was right. Heimdallr is so good in mid that you wouldn't want it in the long lane. The damage output coming out from those in-hand autos as well as the self-peel on the CC. It's powerful, and it's a beads burning tool in the ultimate to set up for the ganks from molluskk on Hunbots. I mean, what more can you want?
From the Heimdallr, I'm not sure you could want anything else. The Heimdallr, I think, brought so much to the table. One of the newest gods added to the game. He's great, apparently, in the mid role. Crimson felt very good about that one. And Bloogie and the Woogys, they should feel good about that one as well. This one goes 40+ minutes. Bloogie and the Woogys, they tie up this set. That means we'll go back to Finch to break it down.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Mifflin, as well. That game did not always look like it was going to be going the way of Bloogie and the Woogys, but they made some excellent plays in that one to close it out and tie this set up 1 apiece. And in particular, I got Aggro here with me. I really feel like the big play was when they made that sort of, I don't know if you want to call it a split push, a base race, whatever you want to call that play, where Houdini's did not seem to know what to do, how to respond to that appropriately.
Yes.
They end up backing, getting nothing out of that one. The story of the game to me is that Houdini's could not capitalize on their Fire Giants.
I completely agree. I think that even when SpreeeN steals a Fire Giant, that doesn't end up going your way.
I think they get 1 tier 2.
I feel like the Houdini's macro game needs some work.
Yep.
You have to understand that you're trading Phoenixes in that moment, and you're winning because your Phoenix is further away from Fire Giant than the Phoenix that you're losing. It just felt a little bit weird, but I agree with the crux of what Mifflin was saying, but I don't want to sign off on the way he was saying it. Heimdallr in the mid lane for Crimson was phenomenal. Crimson's looked like he might be he might be the best player on the field so far in this set. He had a great game on Thoth in game 1. Looks great on the Heimdallr here in game 2. And I do have to at some point give Mifflin some credit because he's somehow the more ridiculous person standing on that shot. And the other guy has a face tattoo today. So that's
impressive.
That is impressive by some degree at the very least.
And I really do want to give a lot of credit, I think, to molluskk and Gamma too, because there were a ton of individual plays that molluskk made that were really, really strong for them this game. I think he found SpreeeN alone in the mid lane, wins that 1v1 handily and shuts him down. They're able to come back over towards Fire Giant with the 5v4 advantage. And then Gamma towards the end of the game was doing a good job being the split pusher on like the mid Phoenix in particular. And whoever they sent over to answer him could not do it on their own, man. When he went up into this big baby form, he was too much for this other team to deal with. So Blugin and the Woogys had a lot of stuff that went well for them this game. It obviously wasn't the cleanest, no 48-minute game can be, but I think that it was still a pretty impressive win for them that they were able to keep out.
I agree for sure. Once Gamma especially sold off the Ikeval and the damage items, it turns out that ends up letting you be a more effective frontliner, which is really all the Blugin and the Woogys needed. I think that really if you're looking at how you take game 3, give Crimson whatever he wants and just let him be your facilitator, let him be the guy for you. But at the other side, I mean, you got to look at what Houdini's have done so far for Nesfor in particular. He has been a really, really impactful player. That Heeed game, I mean, the one bounce by back camps, the right amount of skill and luck, and it came together, and it looked really, really strong.
Yeah, what is it? Preparation meets opportunity? Yeah, we'll take it. A little bit of
Anatolian on me right here on set 1, dude.
No, I said that correctly. But you're right. That shot certainly was fortunate for him. Nesfor had a great game. I think that cursed upgraded pickup was huge for them that game, too. You saw it on their mid-Phoenix siege, which doesn't quite work out for them, but they blew that Vamana up, didn't they? He went to the front line, maybe took 3 more shots, and he was absolutely done for. So I don't think Houdini's are out of this by any means. This next game 3 these next picks and bans you're about to go through are going to be very, very critical here to see exactly how these two teams have done. Who's the one that gets this win and puts themselves in the best position to make it out of the group stage?
And Gamma on the Vamana was so much more impactful in the early and mid game, and it made sure that Heeed is under control. A lot of times you think of solo laners getting out of control, and it's, oh, they're on the back line, and they get huge, and it's all them. But oftentimes it's because the enemy solo laner can't match that same pressure.
Right.
And so the solo laner who's ahead, his backliners get to move up and then help him, which just facilitates that farm really, really quickly. Gamma was able to prevent that in Game 2 much, much better than Game 1.
Looks like we're going to have to see Heeed on something different this time. The Kukulkan's been banned away. I believe he played that in games 1 and 2. Yeah,
Yep.
so we're going to have to see him on something different. He's had a great set so far, too, so we'll have to see what else he has in the bag. Meanwhile, Yamoja, Persephone, and the Merlin banned away. Did you see enough from Bayroneri's Persephone to where you'd be super worried about it? I mean, I think there was some good stuff. He had a big double kill and left, but aside from that, there were some ultimates off the mark. I don't know if it was... I don't know if I have nightmares about it, you know.
I do think that Persephone is the hardest god to play.
She's real tough.
At a very high level. I think that her skill floor is still very, very high.
Yeah.
And so, was it good enough to pick again? Probably. Not first pick.
Sure.
I don't think that's the fear with Persephone, is that it gets let through and then you don't hard carry the game with it. Guys like Paul and Heroin get it banned against them consistently because they've proven that they can hard carry games with it. This is the ultimate test now. You got it once. Wasn't that impactful. I think it's understandable that Houdini's banned it themselves.
Well, Houdini's get the Unbots and the Odin. We have seen some jungle Odin out lately, but now that Unbots is there, I got to imagine this is either going to be support or solo Odin. A lot of talk about how strong this guy is. And you know what makes Cage even better? When there's two of them. Now the Morrigan is here, and that is a particularly scary top 3 picks. I'd be happy if she turned to Odin or Unbots, honestly.
Yeah, both of those are good transformations for sure, and I'm sure you're going to get at least 1 or 2 more throughout the rest of this draft.
Yep.
You asked me at the very beginning of the show what gods I think are over or undervalued. I'm leaning that Odin is a little bit overvalued right now. The Cage, you can break out of it now. I mean, you still get the ability to do the damage if they jump out. That's a good change. And the stun is obviously very impactful, but he still just presses 2-1 and then is running around in your backline for a little bit. The big thing that is really impactful about Odin now, in my mind, is that he's always got something to be doing, because the 3 is a channel ability now. It's not that quick little spin. So he's basically always either jumping, 2ing, or 3ing, and that's what makes him hard to deal with.
I was wondering where we'd see molluskk go with Unbots taking the dodgy and the wheelish all banned away, even Odin taking 2. It looks like the idea is going to be Serqet. And I kind of like this for someone like molluskk. It lets him be aggressive, and it lets him be impactful at multiple stages of the game.
Agreed. It's really those late game team fights where you can struggle, but this is the type of draft that Bloogie and the Woogys have that can steamroll a team. Xing Chen gets out of control very quickly. Kukulkan in the mid lane has great setup with that Xing Chen and that Serqet right there. Osiris can dominate that solo lane. I think that Bloogie and the Woogys have a great draft to really take it to Houdini's early on in this game.
I do think that this Kumbhakarna pick, though, could be a big deal. Kumbhakarna is the one that says no to all of that aggression. If you can make it there, he can get a bit blown up in this early game, but once he gets tanky and a few items online, he could absolutely nip all this aggression in the bud. Real quick, which way are you leaning based on these drafts?
I like Bloogie and the Woogys' draft. I do think Houdini's have played the early game better as a whole so far, but I'm going to give it to Bloogie and the Woogys here.
I think I got to follow you up on that one, man. After that performance they just had there in Game 2, somehow bouncing back in a long match to be able to find that victory, it's hard not to lean them. Game number 3, the decider match. Let's get it down to Dulce.
There's been a lot of smite already here today between Game 1 and Game 2. That nearly goes 48 minutes. Houdinis, they're able to shrug off a nice Fire Giant steal from SpreeeN, keep themselves into that game. Purple buff invade there. Halfghost is going to be able to confirm that one. But I think you have to give props to the Houdinis and Bloogie and the Woogys both. They're so impactful in both of those games, and being able to force your way through a 48-minute game, stay in it, shrug off an FG steal, and you find the win.
I mean, as well as they've got more games to play. This is the group stages, but whether or not they can continue this mentality that they've had so far, that mental fortitude to continue playing at the top level, it's difficult, right? You got to continue playing at your best at all times.
It is continued pressure here from both of the supports. Blugin picked up the speed buff there, notably, so at least some sort of impact going his way. And if nothing else, that's going to allow him to further put his pressure into these early game junglers' lives.
And I want to shout out Houdinis as well for using their hog exactly where the invades have been coming out every time. If Bloogy and the Woogys move in towards their speed buff, the Hog's over there at level 1. This game, they moved in towards the purple buff. They used the Hog on that. It's pretty smart. I'm not sure how they're doing it exactly because there's no real indicator for it, but they've accurately predicted where the invades are going to come out every single game.
All right, Mifflin. Well, we've seen actually maybe a first blood potential here. Oh, just misses the final shot. Heeed is able to sidestep that one. Actually staying in lane. Cooldowns are on cooldown for Gamma, so Heeed was able to escape that one alive. Talk to me a little bit about this Kukulkan. We have seen him consistently banned out or picked up. I mean, that pick ban rate has got to be approaching 100%. What does he bring to that mid lane? You know, plenty of confirm, of course, in the objectives, but laning against him is oppressive.
I mean, chat's probably sick of hearing it, but Kukulkan is good. Tornadoes is a huge damage output as well as shred on objectives. The ultimate is going to blow anybody up with any form of CC as well as a huge objective confirmed. And the Squall, huge slow, and the survivability out of his 2 is going to make him immune to slows as well as about 40% faster. What more can you want? Really, it's such a good mage. If he had a jump, he would be the best god ever.
Maybe a stun, maybe a little bit of something else as Gamma is stunned up. Heeed finds the first blood in this one. Odin is able to put himself on the board early as Gamma takes a back seat only for a few seconds. Luckily, now he's able to buy that active, get the teleport, get himself back to lane. But a lot of the conversation as well has been around the over versus undervaluing of that Odin. He still brings plenty of utility to the board.
I've said it for a long time that Odin is one of the few gods that has an ability that fundamentally changes how you have to approach every single team fight. Now a little bit less so, now that the cage can be destroyed. But beforehand, once the cage was dropped, you were generally stuck in it outside of using an escape ability or buying the Phantom. And Odin's one of the few gods that actually forces the Phantom pickup. Now if you jump out of his cage, you're going to take a little bit of additional damage from a spear chasing you down.
Sure.
Odin is an incredibly potent pickup. I think he's only stronger now. But at the same time, whether or not he is over or undervalued, I would say he's valued just about right.
Yeah.
He's got the stun in his 3. He's got the huge damage as well as lane pressure in the 2-1 bird bomb combo. As I said, that ultimate fundamentally changes how you have to approach every single team fight. It's kind of nuts. And on such a low cooldown as well.
And they have Morrigan on their team also. Is there a world where you're transforming into that Odin? I mean, we see Morrigan use the ultimate a lot on carries and things of the like. But a double Odin, I think, is just as scary.
It is super spooky, right? Like, let's say they use a Phantom one time to escape the first Odin cage.
Yeah.
There's another Odin cage. You don't have Phantom anymore. Let's say they use their jump to get out of one Odin cage. There's another Odin cage. You don't have a jump anymore, you know? There's a lot to worry about there. And if you do travel through 2 Odin cages again, now you're taking damage from it twice.
Well, we return to a bit of normalcy in the long lane here as well. It was Olorun up against Yi in the previous game. Sometimes you see the Morrigan in that long lane, but it's just going to be a mid lane Morrigan this time, having to go toe-to-toe with that Kukulkan. But Hachiman, that's been kind of a hunter favorite in some of these plug-and-play scenarios. Some of the other hunters are banned out. Hachiman has started to see a lot more play.
Hachiman is a huge damage god. He brings utility in that he can stem his entire team with the War Banner. He's got a huge teamfight ultimate that can hit generally 5 people. It's such a large cone that it's very easy to aim, as well as it's a CC and escape, CC immune and escape ability. Hachiman has a lot of utility. He's got a stun in his kit. He can extend his auto attacks. He's just a hunter's hunter in that he's very standard in how he's played. He's one of the more simple hunters to release in recent years. He's good.
Was it Hachiman that you got on the soapbox about not buying Devo's Gauntlet, going into Blood 4? I mean, because he's going to have to choose one of the 2 to finish off in that. Was it Hachi? I can't remember who we were talking about that you said you would ban them if they buy Devos, and they ended up buying Devos.
Look, okay, it was Hachiman, but I have talked to some numbers people, and they said it wasn't necessarily as bad as I had made it portrayed. But it's not the best. It's definitely not optimized. As this fight happens around the blue buff, it's going to fizzle out 3 versus 2. And the Hog in the drop. Blue buff should be
Well,
free.
when it's fully stacked, right, the Devour, I mean, it's certainly good. You get plenty of lifesteal for yourself.
Yeah, Devourers is a good item. There are just better items. I'm not getting into it again. You can't bait me into this.
I'm not trying to bait. I'm genuinely curious. Molluskk, though, is curious if he's going to be able to survive. Enough bounces from Bayroneri. Dash, not enough. Bayroneri rotates in, transforms in to SpreeeN. And of course, on that Batz, is able to find first blood here in this one. So the Morrigan putting an early impact on this game.
2-0 in favor of Houdini's. This game is going about as quick as it was before. If history is any indicator, Bloogy Woogys is going to pick up exactly 1 kill, and then we're going to stagnate for another 10 minutes.
10 minutes, right.
Yeah. But let's hope it's a little bit quicker than that, especially because SpreeeN and Bayroneri having 2 Hunbots ultimates is such a huge tool for moving towards objectives, 2 Fear No Evils. We were talking about 2 cages, but I think Hunbots is the more potent combo to look towards here, or even looking towards transforming into molluskk on that Serqet. That true damage coming out of the ultimate will be incredibly potent going forward, especially in the team fight if it could spread, but that's not easy to do.
Well, you bring up the Serqet, and you know, she's another jungler that I wouldn't say we've never seen, but it has been few and far between. Where do you kind of have her? I'm not going to ask you to tier list them.
Oh, I will tier list them.
I'm not going to make you do that. We'll be here for, if it's another 48-minute game, we'll have the time for you to tier list out all the junglers. But where do you see kind of Serqet in the current meta? Do you like her? Do you think she provides what you look for?
Serqet has the quickest buff clear of any god. Her first ability is just going to immediately blow up any camp, as well as now that Crit's back in the meta, Serqet's going to be looking a little bit better. However, true damage on your ultimate, as well as it making you CC immune, is going to be so good. She's one of the quicker gods to move around the map with a dash and a jump. The taunt / madness that she can inflict onto the enemies is going to be so potent, especially in the late game once they get some attack speed online. Serqet is certainly great.
There's a potential collapse here. 4 members of Bloogy Woogys will be here for this fight. SpreeeN gets sent running. He still maybe is able to turn around in this fight.
Nice
Gamma gets stunned down. Shiaaaaa in the back line. Mez is a couple. Drops down 1, but immune goes Crimson into the passive form. Heeed is going to try to lock them out. 1 more shot's all they need. Blugin finds it. Whirlwind of Rage and Steel connects onto Heeed. Sends him under the tower. He's going to get melted down here. Final shot goes to Crimson. In the meantime, though, another Hunbots ultimate. Bayroneri does this one, and he grabs the 2nd kill of the game on this Morrigan. That's the 3rd for the Houdinis.
Meanwhile, Halfghost got a little bit aggressive around that red buff, tried to steal it away. And that's exactly what I was talking about earlier, though. Bayroneri transforming into Hunbots, that ultimate, able to stop any sort of damage output from the enemy team, as well as setting yourself up so well with that fear to just continue beating on them. It's incredibly potent. And Hunbots traditionally does need a beads burner.
Yep.
Hunbots is the best beads burner. So, you know.
Now you got 2 of them.
Now you got 2. Yeah, it's Hunbots on Hunbots.
I'll take that any day of the week. Maybe the only better is Bastet instead of
yeah, we do love
but
that.
We're not going to dive down that track again. molluskk, though, into the Teleria boots. That's something that I think we've, at least just today, I think I've seen that more today than I've seen in previous weeks combined. Looking for a little bit of extra mobility in this early game.
Teleria boots is something you pick up at the higher levels of play, in that it allows you to continue farming the map more quickly, more easily. You're not necessarily looking to constantly be attacking like the arena games we saw in the qualifiers, essentially. We're not having those quite as much, so you want to be able to maneuver yourself around the map, find the key ganks, as well as it still has a little bit of power on it, so once you do finally pick and engage at this level, it's usually going to be a very good one, in that you wouldn't really need the additional 20 power.
SpreeeN is going to help Houdini secure themselves that Totem of Ku here. Maybe not, he's going to back off.
Hit it once.
Let Heeed grab it for himself, but that opens things up here. Gold Fury being poked at by Bloogy Woogys. Bayroneri. Wow. He's going to back up as molluskk gets punched to the skies. 9 win, Kukulkan ultimate flies on through. Nesfor is able to lock down the kill. Blugin turns around. Airstrike is going to disengage from Halfghost. Crimson is very low here, doing some good tick damage on his way out. Bayroneri still maybe in range.
Up to gold, though.
Yeah, Houdinis, they're going to grab 1 kill and maybe grab this Fury.
That should be a free, uncontested Gold Fury, burning so incredibly quickly. I really liked that ultimate from Crimson. Dropping it on the enemy Kumba ult is going to make it so that anyone that looks to follow up immediately off of it is going to get hit. They found 1 onto the target of Nesfor. Unfortunately, wasn't enough follow-up to really turn that into a kill. Turns for a 1 for 0 and a gold free in favor of Houdini's. Gold deficit 2,000 at 10 minutes. This is the largest lead, the fastest we've seen this set.
And so what do you look for the Houdinis to do now? I mean, you've grabbed yourself an early 2K gold lead. How do you push this further going into this mid-game?
You can continue trying to rush down these objectives with the double Hunbots ultimate. Again, it's so potent. If anyone moves in to defend this Pyromancer, it should be relatively easy for them to just continue taking that fight. They could also look towards taking down this mid tower if they can just find a pick on its Kukulkan, opening up the map just ever so much, making it just that much easier to get in towards these Gold Furies on respawn or even the Pyromancer in the future. However, if Houdini wants to slow down and just continue farming and wait for the next Gold Fury to come up, which is their easiest objective to drop at this point in the game, that's also a very viable route to play.
molluskk now is going to hang around the solo lane side. Heeed is somewhat low on mana, does have the blue buff. Maybe able to stick out through this engagement. molluskk hanging in the back, stun used onto Gamma, dashes right on through, cage dropped. But here comes SpreeeN, he's in to try to re-engage on this, but you just need one more shot onto molluskk, but watch out, 2 more rotating from Bloogy and the Woogys as well.
Nice
Blink
jump.
through from Blugin, Heeed avoids that one. Shiaaaaa, he uppercuts down onto Crimson, who's not able to do much more in this fight. SpreeeN finds a kill, that's the second Hunbatz in this fight. And it's Bayroneri this time. He's on a killing spree. 302 on this Morrigan. Might even be able to extend it just further. Transforms back. But if nothing else, you grab 2 kills. Maybe a third here on the Blugin.
I think Bayroneri is playing a better Hunbatz than SpreeeN is at this point. Every time he transforms, he's finding so much. But that's, you know, to be completely honest, SpreeeN is finding these engagement ultimates, and then Bayroneri is coming in afterward to find up the cleanups. And that's exactly how you need to play as well. Double Hunbatz ultimate, so potent going forward. They need to be more aware, Blugin the Woogys, when they go for these ganks. No wards on that side of the map, so they had no idea that they were getting counter-engaged there.
Yep. I think molluskk will look to have a bigger impact on this game as well. He was able to move in, kind of counter-gank. I think the rotation, I mean, you lose so many, but Blugin and the Woogys, they rotated very quickly, but Houdini's maybe with better calculated, the positioning a little bit better there. And also you look at the Morrigan, who in this case had, you know, a kill and a couple of assists going into that fight anyway. Now 3-0-3, regardless of who you are, whether you're just your plain self or you transform into SpreeeN, I think Bayroneri has put his impact early and often on this game.
Regardless of that 3-0 slash line, he hasn't really pulled an XP lead off. Only 1 level going forward here. That's not too terrible. Do more of the pickup for the Morrigan, though. That is interesting. The additional movement speed, as well as it having so much power on it, is going to be very good, especially since people like to sleep on it. Morrigan's base stance being the actual Morrigan is incredibly powerful. It's got a very similar playstyle to your Loki's, barring the split push potential.
Sure.
You can get in behind them, blow people up instantly, and then transform into another target, continue that onslaught of power. Morrigan is so absolutely potent this season, going straight into the Spear of Desolation as well. If she picks up a kill, she's going to be picking up more.
That's some early pen for her to keep herself potent in these fights. Bayroneri feeling good about where he's at 3-0-3. I'm not going to make you go deep into the conversation, but a Bloodforged pickup.
We love that.
From Nesfor here.
Yeah, we love that a lot.
Halfghost opts for the Devos Gauntlet.
Not only the Bloodforged, but also electing to pick up Crit. Crit so powerful this season, and that's what we were. That's the crux of what I was upset about last week. It was the lack of Crit in the build. Jing also electing to pick up some Crit. The lane going at 1-0-0 in favor of Hachiman to a 0-0-0 on Jing. Both are just about fully even in XP and gold. Rage not stacked for either, so I imagine they'd look to get involved in this next gold free fight, spawning in about 40 seconds. Whoever finds the better end of this fight and gets their crit stacked up first is going to be looking very pretty in the lane.
And you know, there aren't many hunters that don't have some form of, you know, movement ability. But I'm starting to, you know, maybe notice a trend where once the Guardians are starting to rotate out of lane, that leaves the hunters on an island, is maybe the reason some of these hunters are more apparent in the meta, more consistent, easier disengage, whether it's through ultimate or through the kit. Is that maybe pushing some a little bit higher up?
Yeah, absolutely. Having safety in your kit kind of makes it a little bit less tempting for the jungler to rotate into your lane, and keeping them off of your island is the best way to stay afloat. If at any point you become an easy gank target for the jungler, that's how you lose the lane. If you get ganked out like once or twice in the early, it's so hard to close that deficit in the long lane. That's the one downside of having minions come to you for your farm. Junglers can look to pick up farm elsewhere. They can go to their own buffs. They can move into a lane and leech a little bit. However, hunters only have that one real avenue to close XP and gold gaps, and it's the exact same one the enemy does.
Blugin and Shiaaaaa exchange waves from across the Oni Fury pit. But it is the Houdinis who are going to start this one up and get it down to about
Half
half health. Heeed is tanking up enough damage from Halfghost that he's not worried about it. He drops down. Houdinis secure themselves the Oni Fury without much contest from Bloogy and the Woogys. Potential fight on the back end as Gamma rejoins the fray. Blugin is going to toss Heeed backwards into the fight. Fear no evil. Doesn't really catch much for them. Blugin, the double jump out on the left-hand side. Gamma engaged, but Bayroneri finds the first kill here. Kukulkan ultimate flies on through. There's the second Hoonbat's ult. Cages in a few, and it's going to set up a double kill and make it 3 now for SpreeeN. What a fight from the Hoonbats. And 3 down, make it 4 for Bloogy and the Woogys.
Bayroneri found the ultimate, pinned him to the cage and the inside of the cage and the one that was caught in it. That is so nuts. That's one of the most potent combos in the game. People think Zeus Odin, that's good. They think Huyi Odin, that's good. But that CC is perfect. Hunbots can drop his ult anywhere inside there and is essentially going to turn it into a 2-second stun. A fear when you can't run around is essentially just a stun.
Well, you can run, but it is right into a wall and nowhere else after that. So well-played fight there from the Houdinis. Bayroneri, after a 3-0-3 slash on going into that one, grabs another kill and a couple assists. But the big turnaround, I think, is now the massive spike that SpreeeN has found. Sets up 3 kills, or is set up for 3 kills in that fight. Grabs some assists as well. Hoonbats 1, Hoonbats 2, both are going to be swinging real hard now.
Oh yeah, with the build as well, when Morrigan transforms into the enemy god, she's going to get the exact same build that that god has. All the CDR and now Heartseeker available onto SpreeeN. Bayroneri, as you said, is going to be swinging hard. Now they have Fire Giant as well. 10,000 gold is how I equate it. And it's already 8,000 actual literal gold in their pockets in the lead. So that's going to be about 18K with all these towers still available to be taken. There's tier 1 and 3 tier 2s. That's going to be a huge gold swing. If Houdinis elect to not even go for a Phoenix, which they don't have to do, it's only 17 minutes into the game. They have so much time to work with. They could just increase this gold gap exponentially and then likely back up towards the gold fury and spawning in about 3 minutes. That should be just around enough time for them to clear out these towers, get this gold fury, return to base, likely finish 1, maybe 2 items, and then just continue this onslaught on the next Fire Giant push. However, if Bloogy and the Woogys elect to defend this tower, they could potentially lose the fight and then lose more off of it.
Watch out, SpreeeN could be looking to jump over this wall. Tier 2 tower fight maybe brewing. Blink in from Shiaaaaa, Fear No Evil, that catches nobody. Heeed locks down Crimson into the cage, but that's about all they've found. Still an engagement on the other side of the tier 2 tower. Shut down onto SpreeeN as Halfghost catches that one. That one's a little bit better of a Fear No Evil. Blugin locked down. Bayroneri just needs one final shot. Nesfor finds it from the back line. Heeed, he's going to jump his way back in. Halfghost still has the ultimate to disengage himself. Stun onto Crimson. It's a 3-man zone now from this Odin. Tier 2 tower goes down. The rest of the team will join him. But health bars are low here. I'm not sure they want to continue taking this fight, but yes, they do as Gamma falls.
Eyes on Bayroneri in the back, dropping a little bit low, but Heeed doing such a good job keeping people zoned out these fights. The Phoenix should fall here. There's 4 members stacked on top of it. Halfghost and Kukulkan, the only ones available to defend it, but Halfghost no longer available to defend it.
Yeah, Halfghost, half health. Heeed gets that cage, dropped back down, doesn't catch much, but Crimson delayed from moving forward just a little bit. There's 1-2-1 for this Kukulkan. Hasn't been able to find much throughout this game. I mean, of the 3 kills, he's participated in 2 of them. But I think the engagement has just been so potent for the Houdinis.
The Houdinis have used those Hunbots ultimates well.
Yep.
I mean, SpreeeN, the last 2 fights, has whiffed a couple of them.
You can't hit them all.
Yeah,
right?
Bayroneri's got you, though. We're going to count that towards your ult
Right.
line as well, SpreeeN. You're doing great, man. And they're using the Odin cage so well there. They used 2 throughout the duration of that fight.
Yep.
1 completely to zone out the enemy team on the back line, make it harder for them to move in towards their tier 2 tower, get onto those carries, and 1 just to separate the Phoenix fight and make it a little bit easier to get onto that objective. However, it wasn't quite enough. They couldn't find it. 17 minutes in the game, as I said, it's going to be very hard to drop that Phoenix, especially with no minions.
Well, you get your health bars chipped away just enough. You only lose the Fire Giant buff on SpreeeN. But I like the way you put it. I mean, there's still 2 tier 2 towers on the map. You're still at a point in this game where gold is going to make a big impact in finishing off those final items in your builds. So why not group up, maybe look towards a tier 2, especially with 2 members over in the long lane, and they're going to stick around for the first tower of the game. Now they're going to decide for the second time to go back, but it's too late, and they cancel their back. Instead, they're going to finally take down this tier 1 tower.
Looks like molluskk might elect it back, as will Halfghost. They pick up that tier 2 tower in the middle lane. That's one of the most important towers in the map. Taking away the towers in the middle lane opens up rotation paths throughout the entire jungle. Now they're going to back up to this Gold Fury. They didn't get every single tower, but they got just about. This Gold Fury is going to swing the gold even more in their favor. Return to base, pick up some items, likely pick up as many wards as you humanly can, and then group up for this Fire Giant spawn in about 45 seconds.
And that's the right call there. I mean, not that Bloogy and the Woogys might have attempted the FG if it was still up, but Houdini's realizing FG's not up. Let's go ahead and grab ourselves this Gold Fury, which will take 5 or so minutes to respawn, then we can just worry about Fire Giant. So they are going to back themselves off, and I imagine rotate over here towards this right-hand side of the map, where we're starting to approach that time where you're getting into this Fire Giant dance. But I think this is the largest we've seen this lead so far in this set. I mean, you think back to Game 1 many moons ago when this set started. There was a bit of a lead and kind of shifted back and forth. Game 2, neck and neck all the way through. This is really our first look at the Houdinis with a big lead in their back pocket.
Yeah, Houdini's is looking so potent as well. I mean, Finch said it on the dash for Game 1. Bloogy and the Woogys are at that best when they can drag you into the weeds and play at their level, and they love to brawl. And that's what we saw Game 2. Now that Houdini's kind of got the forefoot here, they're really not trying to brawl at their level. They're picking every fight that they want. Houdinis are looking a lot cleaner in their play style.
Well, Bayroneri got fed early, and he got fed often, and then that kind of cascaded out to the rest of his team. And it certainly helped when SpreeeN got a few kills as well. Yeah, Gamma, the only one in range. Everyone else from Bloogy and the Woogys is on the left-hand side of the map. Gamma realizing that that one is maybe a futile effort, is going to back himself off. Houdini's snag their second Fire Giant of the game. Their base, or Bloogy and the Woogys' base, rather, a little bit more open this time around. One tier 2 tower remaining.
Watch out, Bayroneri.
Bayroneri is going to go stealth. Transforms into Hoonbats again. Fear no evil. Connects onto Blugin. Defensive use of the ultimate there. Gets Bayroneri out alive.
That's an interesting decision to elect to use your ultimate rather than your beads. And then using the ultimate again extends the cooldown, so Bayroneri's not going to have that transformation for a while. I imagine that it might have been a better trade to just use your beads, walk out as the Morrigan, and then use your ultimate on that siege. But with all the minion waves pushed up so much, it's going to close that gap on the ultimate timer. As we see, it's already a quarter filled. With all that cooldown in her build as well, maybe not too bad of a decision.
Well, it's left lane, or long lane rather, for the Houdinis. That is the target of attack, and they're going to send SpreeeN towards that middle lane. So opting for the 4-1 approach that you're such a big fan of.
It splits up the map so well, it makes it so hard for anyone to really contest that middle lane Phoenix, especially if you send Hunbots over there. He's so potent in the 1v1, and as well as that ultimate is almost a death sentence if he can drop you below half health. Sending Kukulkan is an interesting choice. He can drop the tornadoes outside of the Phoenix and then move in towards the fight in the long lane.
And, you know, you send SpreeeN over to that middle lane, and it's not like you're suddenly losing that Hoonbats ult because you've been using 2 of them the entire game. Nearly was able to find a pick onto molluskk, who has to go back to base. SpreeeN is going to lock in Crimson here, but he's going to jump himself out. So a couple ultimates burnt. Hoonbats, Odin both down. Blugin will have his up, so almost 5 ultimates strong for Bloogy and the Woogys. This might be a time where you choose to maybe take one of these fights, realizing that a couple ultimates are down on the Houdini side.
5 ultimates are available, but the beads are down on Serqet, as well as the blink is down from Xing, so it's going to be hard for Bloogy and the Woogys to find the engage, as, you know, Shiaaa's just going to do it himself.
Yeah, that's just a fine engagement. I'm going to knock Halfghost way up into the sky. Down he crashes with no re-engagement on the back end of it. SpreeeN, molluskk, doing a dance on the mid lane. Phoenix, 4 members of Bloogy and the Woogys still backing up. Were a couple ultimates burnt there as well, so it's not that the Houdinis aren't looking for the engage, they just haven't found the full fight that they're looking for. Bloogy and the Woogys haven't burnt a reactionary ultimate just yet. One more engagement. This one goes on to Crimson. Stun is missed this time around. Gamma, he's taken down to about half health, as Shiaaaaa is as well. In the back line, a couple cent spinning. Shiaaaaa into the passive. That's a good transformed Hoonbats ult for Bayroneri. There's the second one in this fight. Nesfor finds the kill. Blugin is able to trade one back. But who would have guessed that Bayroneri has the double? Blugin, he might make for 3. Instead, it's Nesfor. He gets the double for himself. Mid lane Phoenix is down. Mid lane minions crashing in as well. Titan, this one's going to be under attack. I don't think Crimson has what it takes to defend.
Don't count him out yet.
25 minutes. Look like they're going to chip this one away. Doesn't have his ultimate. It's going to turn around some damage, but the Houdinis, they melt the Titan, and they take game number 1 in Group B.
And what a clean game that was. Truly, 24 minutes, so clean. At no point was I worried about whether or not who was going to win. Houdini's made it very evident that they were feeling confident in that game, and they looked the part. Shouts to Molluskk, they did a very good job. Bloogie and the Woogies, you guys looked really good today. Unfortunately, the Houdinis just brought their A game.
Well, they still have more chances to grab themselves some wins here in this group. But what a set on and on throughout that one. Bayroneri, I mean, I don't know if you need to say too much more than that for the Houdinis. 8-0-9 is where that Morrigan ends, and it was we were kind of curious as to maybe where those transforms come from, and it was Hoonbats early, Hoonbats often, and Hoonbats till the end of the game.
I don't think he turned in anyone besides Hoonbats, and I can't fault him. It just worked. It just worked, and it worked well.
At 4-0-8, Nesfor found some kills towards the end as well. And SpreeeN, I think that was a big swing, as big of a swing that could have happened at that point. When SpreeeN grabbed a triple kill, it just made Bayroneri that much more powerful in some of those fights. A well-drafted composition and well played around who you need. And look at this, 5 minutes into this game, Bayroneri gets things rolling early, and it's the first example of what we saw time and time again.
That was a smart decision to throw the 3 at the Gold Fury. Often people will throw it directly at the enemy god, which is fine, but it's hard to land your teleport off that as it will bounce to the next target. Instead, Bayroneri showing that not only is he good at Morrigan, but he's also very mechanically talented on that Hunbots.
I loved the patience of the Houdini's Phoenix Sieges here, because, you know, they kept trying to re-engage here and there, but then they waited for the opportune moment. All the ultimates they needed were back up. And it's just so powerful. I mean, you see one Hoonbats ult and you're assuming, all right, the damage is done.
Yeah,
then
that's
the
worst of it.
Catches onto a few.
Yeah, you gotta, you know, at some point they have to know that he's only turned into Hunbots. Another one's gonna come, but you really can't play around it. You can't ignore that first Hunbots ultimate, or you're just gonna die to that one. So you have to use your beads or whatever sort of immunity that you have. And if you don't have it for the second one, you're just dead, like you would have been if had you not used it for the first one. So you,
well,
you can't
Bloogy
really
and the
prepare.
Woogies, they fall here in our first set of the day. They're gonna be in action again up next against Trick Babushka. But remember, all of this maybe secondary to the SPL. This one starts next Saturday. It's gonna be great. Every team in action next weekend. So next Saturday, make sure to tune in for opening day of the SPL. Plenty of games to take a look at. We're gonna take a quick break before game number 2.